We're going to get the meeting underway. Good evening. Today is Monday, November 6, 2023. Thank you for joining us both in person in Contois Auditorium and online for the Burlington City Council meeting. The time is 5:37. We'll begin our evening with item 1.1, which is a motion to adopt the agenda. Councilor Traverson, if you could just read the amendments.
Sure. I move to adopt the agenda with the following amendments. Add to the consent agenda item 7.14, communication Zach Rees-Smol. Add to the consent agenda item 7.15, communication Sharon Busher, Ward 1 resident, re-MOU with UVM. Add to the consent agenda item 7.16, communication Crystal B, refunding for stores impacted by crime. 7.17, communication Sharon Busher, Ward 1 resident, re-Gateway block. 7.18, communication Oiso Makuku, CEO, Main Street Landing, BTV City Council, letter 11/6/23, and remove from the deliberative agenda item 8.1, ordinance CDO ZA 2401, technical amendments.
Thank you, Councilor Travers. Is there a second to that motion? I can always count on Councilor Bergman to second that motion. Thank you so much. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of the motion as presented by Councilor Travers, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please say no. That motion passes, and I'll note that we have Councilor Grant joining us by Zoom. The next item on our agenda is 2.1, which is a communication regarding the UVM MOU and Main Street Great Streets project. As these items relate to contract negotiations, this agenda item it contains an expected executive session. Before we go to a motion regarding the executive session, it's our practice to go to the administration. If there's any update that you can provide us and the community in open session, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Paul. With respect to the UVM MOU, really the only update there is that the negotiations that have been talked about publicly in the past and that we've had executive session discussions on have continued, and we are making progress, and we are looking forward to discussing the state of that potential agreement with you in executive session tonight. I don't think there's anything further that can be said at this point in public about that, but we hope to have a full public update soon, and certainly there will be a full public update before the council's asked to take any action on this, and no action is being requested tonight. With respect to the Great Streets Main Street project, it has been some time since we talked to the council about this project that in some ways we've been working on for the better part of a decade. There has been a lot of conversation out in the community, and that the DPW team and the team working on this has been engaged for many months in discussions with properties that businesses, residents, property owners that abut the 6 blocks of the project. And we have been, where we are in this project now is we have gone out to bid for the improvements, and we want to discuss those bids with the council in executive session tonight. But before that, I think it would actually be helpful for executive session discussion, as well as helpful to the public for our DPW Director, Chapin Spencer, and Senior Engineer Laura Wheelock to give a quick update on where the project stands right now.
Good evening.
Great, thank you very much. We'll make this quick, and because the mayor hit all the key intro points, I'm going to turn it over. City Engineer Norm Baldwin is also here to answer any questions for us tonight.
Hello. So as the mayor had noted, the last time that we were in front of the council with any sort of substance on the project was actually back in May of 2022. But also, as noted, the project has been around for a little while. And, sorry, it's a little sensitive tonight. So the Main Street project, as last discussed, included going from Battery Street up to Union and revitalizing the streetscape in our Great Streets standard concept that was adopted by the council in 2018. We have a very robust team, both on our design side as well as within city departments, that have supported us through this project, and want to recognize the substantial effort, both from our designers, our departments, and our community in helping us get to this point. Quickly, the project was not just Main Street. When we envisioned this back in 2016, it included a larger part of our downtown, projects that we've already completed in our construction with City Hall Park and St. Paul Street was the last effort there. This project on Main Street really takes a substantial reallocation of our space to provide available areas for walking, biking, parking, and our transit modes. This project also revitalizes our underground infrastructure, which is something that we haven't done on a previous Great Streets project, really taking a holistic look at the street. This is a rendering that came from the 2016 effort. It just highlights the available space, the beautification, the availability of underground areas for our trees to actually grow in a substantial way, treating of stormwater, and other improvements. Just a plan view, which is really hard to see in a presentation, but available to look at later on. This is just a snapshot of the different times that we've been out in the public to bring forth this project, all the way from the original vote that touched on the first 2 blocks of Main Street back in 2015, through the vote, which is actually in the middle of the screen, to highlight how long this has been happening, in March of ¡22, where the other additional blocks of Main Street were brought in, all the way down to the first blue arrow where we are here tonight looking to talk about the construction and where we are in the timeline. So we were starting this timeline back in '22 when we went for our last vote. We've been through substantial design, outreach to the community, and we are here today at the end of our design, ready to start advancing our bids to construction.
That's the contact information for us, and if the public has any questions after tonight, we are happy to answer them moving forward. Thanks.
And again, President Paul, no action is anticipated on this item after the executive session, although here too, hopefully we will be back for council action soon.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much for the presentation. So with that, we'll go to motions for executive session. Councilor Travers, if you could make the motion, the first motion to go into executive session, please.
Just point of clarification with respect to both executive session items, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I move to find that premature general public knowledge of contract negotiations between the city and the University of Vermont, as well as contract negotiations related to the Main Street Great Streets project, would clearly place the city at a substantial disadvantage because the city risks disclosing its negotiating strategy if discussing the proposed contract terms or negotiations in public.
Thank you. So thank you, Councilor Travers. Is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Councilor Carpenter. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please say no. That motion passes unanimously. So based on that vote, if you could move the second motion, Councilor Travers.
Based on the finding of substantial disadvantage, I move that we enter into executive session to discuss contract negotiations pursuant to 1 VSA Section 313(1)A.
In addition to that, we will note that the motion will include that the mayor's staff, Planning Director Megan Tuttle, CEDO Director Brian Pine, the City Attorney Jared Pellerin, and CAO Catherine Shad will be present for the UVM discussion. The Main Street discussion will be, again, in addition to the mayor's staff, DPW Director Chapin Spencer, Chief Engineer Norm Baldwin, Senior Public Works Engineer Laura Wheelock, the City Attorney, the CAO, as well as CEDO Director Brian Pine and Director of Business and Workforce Development, Kara Al-Naswari. With that, we'll take a second. Second to that motion will be Councilor Carpenter. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please say no. That motion passes unanimously. So we will be in executive session, and we are going to be moving downstairs to the Busher Room. We will plan to be out of executive session at approximately 7:15, I believe it is. And public forum will start at 7:30. Thanks very much. My apologies, it just takes us a couple of seconds when we get back from executive session to set up Zoom. We are running a little bit behind, so we're going to have to come back. My apologies to the chair and vice chair of the DPW Commission. We'll have to come back because we have public forum at a time certain of 7:30. So it's now 7:36. We will start. We'll start the public forum. Before we begin public forum, I'd like to note that we have a process for public forum, and I speak for the full council as we share a strong commitment to an orderly process and one that honors all voices and respectful discourse. For those that are in Contois, we have a timer system that's at the table in front of me. It has 3 lights. A green light will shine when you begin speaking. A second light, which is yellow, will shine when you have 30 seconds left. And then the last light is a red light, and that will shine when your time is up. Please complete your sentence when the sound and the light indicate that your time is up, so that everyone has the same amount of time and we can keep the public forum moving along. If you're joining us online, and there are a number of people that are joining us online and are in the queue to speak, we have a timer set up that's on Zoom. We don't have a light system. When your 2 minutes is up and the clock winds down to 0, please complete your sentence so that we can move on to hearing from the next community member. We have a hybrid system, as you can see, both in person and online for public forum. If you wish to speak in person and you're here with us in Contois, there are forms to my right in the back of the room. Please complete one and then bring to the clerk in the front of the room. And if you please complete the form as completely as possible. That's helpful. As far as those that are joining us online, if you go to the following website, it's burlingtonvt.gov/citycouncil, one word, /public forum, a form will come up. If you complete the form and press send, those answers will come into a spreadsheet that I have in front of me, and I can call on you in the order in which you submitted a form. It's been our practice that Burlington residents have first priority. We will go to Burlington residents in Contois, of which there are a number, who've submitted a form in person, and then to Burlington residents online who have completed the online form, then back to Contois for non-Burlington residents, and then we will finish up with online non-Burlington residents, again, that are joining us by Zoom. We don't have a large number of people who wish to speak during public forum, so it should go rather quickly. During public forum, the only thing that we ask is that you please use respectful language. We'd like to remind everyone here this evening and online that there are families in Burlington who watch our city council meetings as their connection to civic engagement. Parents use this forum to teach our city's children about city government, and we expect that everyone who speaks refrains from using profanity. When you are speaking, please direct your comments to me. Please face me as the chair. Do not personalize any comments. Do not speak to anyone else at this table, nor to the audience that is gathered. This rule will be strictly enforced. Again, we want to hear what you have to say, and we will listen more intently if you speak respectfully. With that, we will go to the people that are joining us in person who wish to speak. The first person is Keegan Lafferty, to be followed by Farine Paris-Meyer. Good evening. Our table seems to be a little bit crooked, but if you can fix that, that would be great.
Hi, my name is Keegan Lafferty. I'm here on behalf of Big Heavy World. It's a nonprofit music organization in Burlington, Vermont, where our focus on advocating for people involved in the music industry, making the Vermont music scene more accessible, inclusive, and equal. We're currently working with a group of youth in the community to develop a youth-led and run cultural space. This would serve as a music venue and also just a safe space for youth and teens in general. And it would be very, very impactful on the youth because it would serve as a place to engage the youth, give them meaningful experiences, and keep them away from other dangerous alternatives like violence, drug use. And so it's really important that we implement a place like this. And we need the support of the city council and the residents of the city in order to do so. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Our next speaker is Farine Paris-Meyer, to be followed by Stephen Whitaker. Good evening.
Good evening, Council President. I'm here today with the following identities influencing my reflections. Here as a member of Burlington, here is a mother, and here is a Black person. And I wanted to shed light on the narrative of Hussein Mohammed, who is one of our very own, who is going through something absolutely tragic, that I find myself being called here today to ask, how can we show up for this child? For those who may not be familiar with this situation, unfortunately, there was a tragic shooting involving 3 youths and an 18-year-old in a car out near Bristol. And with the gun that was being passed around, unfortunately, Hussein accidentally shot it off in the rear seat, killing his friend who was sitting in the passenger seat. And I'm here just deeply concerned, as I am when I see anti-Blackness and racism being at play. But my question that is haunting me, since knowing that a family has to prepare bearing their child who has gone way too soon, is the act that we are asking that this student, this child, be held in a judicial system and being seen as an adult. And I think there's a lot of historical things that are at play. Whether we want to ask those courageous questions or not. And why is that? Why is a 14-year-old, why is a Black refugee immigrant child being held to this statue? Yet I see other things happening in media where we're omitting the names of the white youth that were in the car. And we're not using their names, and we're referring to them as the 18-year-old or the alleged youth, but yet this Black child continues to be victimized. And I know that my buzzer just went off, but I guess I just need to name that I feel like it's our responsibility to take charge here with Black liberation. I'm speaking in a room that has a Burlington mayor. I'm speaking in this room that has 2 future mayor candidates into it, and it will be on us if this child gets trialed as an adult, because we're putting 2 children now in the coffin.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Stephen Whitaker, to be followed by Karen Sita. Good evening.
Good evening. I want to remind you of the Vermont Constitution, Article 6, that you took an oath to uphold the office. All officials elected or appointed are strictly accountable to the people. Now, I have called to your attention at prior meetings where I've been cut off. Respect goes both ways, by the way. Where you cut people off to 2 minutes or even 1 minute at the last meeting, when I'm bringing public safety emergency issues before you and you're not putting them on the agenda. I've made 3 calls to you in October and you did not respond to one of them. So we have a problem here with the public records appeal to the head of the agency dated September 13th. Today at the meeting, they quickly gave me an undated response, upholding the redactions of the deal with Jack Wallace and the Burlington Harbor Marina, violating his lease, keeping people out of the bathrooms, not policing the plaza, not emptying the trash, leaving the needles and the rubbers, et cetera. Y'all don't seem to recognize that you're aggravating the emergency of the unhoused by shutting down all the bathrooms for the season, removing the trash cans where the joggers and the dog walkers put their pet waste. You're aggravating the despair of the unhoused, the hopelessness, and the addiction. And you can deny it on the radio, as you have. Both you and the mayor denied it on the radio, that there's a clear nexus between the lack of dignity that you're demonstrating to these folks and the public health emergency that you want to put a Band-Aid over. So, open meeting law violation. I have filed an open meeting law violation. That requires the council to meet in 10 calendar days. 10 calendar days is tomorrow. Are you going to schedule an emergency meeting for tomorrow? Because you've not been made aware of this? But the open meeting law violation was sent to you, and this idea that you can just shut everybody down in 2 minutes and
Thank you.
think you're above the law.
Thank you so
not true.
much. Thank you. Our next speaker is Karen Sita, to be followed by Todd LaCroix.
All right. I actually wrote down because when I speak with passion, they don't understand. So I decided to use my Harvard Kennedy education, and write something. My time? Okay, great. I stand before you today not only as a concerned citizen, but as someone whose life is in danger. I'm a freedom fighter who has tirelessly fought against the mentality that exists in Vermont, a mentality that perpetuates the belief that black people are inferior to white people. This mindset is deeply rooted and persuasive throughout the entire state. Too often when I assert my equality as a black person, backed by federal and state law, I'm met with resistance, pushback. I'm interrupted, silenced, and dismissed, first by a transgender woman who was sitting there, who failed to recognize the importance of my message, and second by, unfortunately, you, our future mayor, Madam President, chair of this council. This is a reflection of this ongoing struggle I face as I speak on behalf of those who cannot speak up for themselves. I'm here to make it clear to the people of Burlington and those watching, hope you got my good side, that I refuse to stop. I will continue to raise my voice. I am relentless, my willpower is out of control, and I will not stop. Once again, we have to see people as people. It's human rights we're fighting for. The right to live in our homes, the right to afford our homes, the right to be free. Obviously, my time is going to be up. But I wanted to say, like Rosa Parks, I have been denied housing opportunities. Like Nelson Mandela, I've been unjustly imprisoned. However, again, I refuse to relent. I am prepared to leave because I have to go to graduate school and get my law degree because we got to fight a legal battle first. But I wanted to let people know that the marathon still continues. And even though I'm heading off to graduate school, my heart is still in Vermont, and I'm constantly thinking of my people. And I'm going to get more education to come back, so if I sit in this chair, real action will be done. I rest my time.
Thank you very much. So our next speaker is Todd LaCroix, to be followed by Dave Marr. Good evening.
The world is in trouble. Why is it in trouble? It's in trouble because we have leaders who don't care, leaders who are morally and spiritually bankrupt. Why do we have children who have lost their minds? Because we have leaders and parents who don't care and are morally and spiritually bankrupt. Why do people not care? Because they've been taught to not care. They've been beaten down by leaders who don't care. All while they smile, pretending like they got everything under control. Here we are, a very, very, very divided country. And we right now have a scenario where we have what appears to be a senile person in charge, doesn't even know where he is half the time, and everybody's acting like it's okay. Well, David Axelrod said something today. You know, and it's a really disturbing thing, that people seem to want Trump back, that Biden and the Democrats' leadership right now is so disastrous that Trump is doing better in the polls. Why is that, you ask? You never ask yourself your culpability in causing these circumstances. No, you just crack down on people for talking about it. You hate your children for talking about it. You just treat us with dehumanizing behavior so that it makes it okay for all the horrible things that you all do to each other, left and right, progressive, Democrat, Republican. You all made it okay to treat each other like crap.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Dave Marr, to be followed by Lee Morgan. Hello, Dave.
There we go. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Yep.
If we're going to get a handle on this opioid crisis, we're going to have to use every tool in our tool chest. But I've heard the police, politicians, and ordinary citizens say that we shouldn't arrest low-level drug dealers and drug users because we want to show kindness and harm reduction. Yet time and time again, I've heard from people who say they only got off drugs and turned their lives around after an encounter with the police. I heard it in this auditorium a few weeks ago. I've heard it in the news, and I've heard it firsthand from friends and colleagues. So I say we should arrest low-level drug dealers and people who shoot up in public, but we should show kindness by giving them a choice of dealing with the criminal justice system or entering rehab. Now, you may say that we currently don't have enough beds available in rehab facilities, but I have an idea. The Lyndon State University campus is highly underutilized and has everything needed to create a world-class drug rehabilitation facility. It has dorms, a cafeteria, classrooms, athletic facilities, and so on. And students studying nursing, social work, psychology, and other fields could serve as interns, providing synergy between the university and the rehab center. So let's demonstrate true kindness and use every tool in our tool chest, including the power of arrest, to help our neighbors with substance abuse disorder and get them the treatment they need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Lee Morgan, to be followed by Parker Nichols.
Hello. My name is Lee Morgan. My pronouns are they, them, and I'm a resident of Ward 7. I'm here to talk tonight about the agenda item allocating the proposed $50,000 donation and then the matched ARPA funds. I think that's great. When I saw how that funding is being sourced, I thought that was really cool. The thing that gives me a little bit of pause is I would encourage you to really involve the downtown workers in the input of how these funds are allocated. I know that in the proposal that I read, it talks about that some of these funds are going to go towards downtown improvements for them. I recently co-hosted a public safety panel for downtown workers, and the thing that I heard over and over again from them is a lot of them feel like they're kind of like yelling into the void and not getting a response back from City Council. And I heard some ideas for solutions from these folks, and they know what they need. They got great ideas that could be really maximize the impact of this money. And so I would just encourage you folks to take their input. I would love to see a public hearing that the downtown workers could come to. Yeah, and I'm really excited for these funds. I think there's potential to do a lot of good here, and I'm glad that our downtown workers are being referred to in that proposal. Thanks.
Thank you. So our last Burlington speaker joining us in Contois is Parker Nichols. Hi. Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. It's my first time coming to one of these meetings, and I just wanted to say I'll look at you, but I'll thank you all who are here being public servants. I'm not, so I don't begin to understand what you all have been doing, but we've all seen what's going on, so I don't need to try to tell you all that there's a problem out there. I was lucky enough to grow up with our mayor. We used to shovel snow off of the Niles Pond down in Woodstock in a little bit more of an idyllic time in the world. But I went to UVM and I'm back a couple years ago. I'm now a business owner and a resident of Burlington. And again, I know that you all have been working tirelessly, so thank you for that. And I'm here just to offer a real simple suggestion and then maybe a question that somebody could follow up on. It's just a simple concept of some low-hanging fruit graffiti. And specifically, I don't know if the city owns Memorial Auditorium or who owns the Y, but as a former house painter, I know that we've kind of missed our opportunity because the temperatures have dropped. But, you know, something as simple as, you know, kind of taking back what we can take back. We can't fix it all right now, but if there's simple things like getting, 50 or 100 gallons of paint and a squad of people who can respectfully, after we talk through the art of navigating graffiti and the ethics of painting over it, but taking back some of those public spaces that are, kind of that low-hanging fruit that every time we go to either the food co-op or drive down Main Street and looking at some of our basic buildings that are covered in things that none of us would do because it's trespassing, if there's a way that we can be thinking about some of the easy stuff, because I know you all are working on the big things, so thanks for doing it.
Thank you very much. So we'll go to those people that are joining us online, and we'll get a timer up in just a second. And I do see someone who has their hand up. I will come to you after. There's only a couple of people that are in the queue, but I will recognize you as soon as we get to those who have signed up. The first person who wished to speak was David Cawley. And David, I've enabled your microphone. You should be able to speak if you unmute on your side.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Go ahead,
Good.
please.
Good, thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening. I'm a Ward 1 resident and I live about a block from the Trinity campus of UVM. So I was pleased to know that you had on your agenda tonight consideration of an MOU between UVM and the city. And we certainly need these working agreements to move forward. I'm also pleased that in the past, City Council took appropriate action not to vote on zoning changes that were favorable to UVM unless it was connected to an agreement about dealing with the city's housing crisis and UVM role as contributor to the problem as well as to the solutions. I'm speaking tonight to urge transparency on potential UVM and city MOUs, and also want to advocate for the potential for this agreement to contribute to mitigate the housing problem. I hope that the City Council will schedule an open forum to discuss this topic so the public can be informed and contribute to the dialogue. The process should be thoughtful and not rushed, allowing time for discussion and public input before any City Council decisions. This is really important and particularly important for Ward 1 residents. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time this evening.
Great, thank you so much. The next person in the queue is Devin Ayers. And Devin, I have found you and enabled your microphone. You should be able to speak if you just unmute on your end.
Okay, I wrote a really long statement. I don't know that I have enough time to read the whole thing. I want to let you know that I live on Decatur Street. I'm here on behalf of, 10 or 12 other households of people who also live on Decatur Street and share the same concern. Just want to start, Decatur Street is a really close-knit neighborhood. We're pretty easygoing. We get along really well. We talk our stuff out. And I'm going to cut to the chase and not read from the statement, I guess, because I don't have time. But we have a neighbor here who has been in mental health crisis. They've been in absolute free fall for about the last year. In the beginning, it was a lot of just angry shouting and stories about sexual assault and calling people perverts, and it escalated into property destruction, harassing neighbors, going into neighbors' yards, yelling racist comments to people, yelling transphobic comments to trans families. It's gotten really, really bad. We have nights when we do not sleep at all. We have tried everything. We have been calling the Howard Center. We have been calling the police department. We have been contacting their landlord, Champlain Housing Trust. We've begged for meetings with all of these institutions. I have emails with Lacey. I have emails with Mike Oler. I have emails with, folks from Howard, and we're not getting traction, right? Nothing is happening. And I will tell you that it's terrifying. We're really worried that someone is going to be hurt or they are going to be hurt. And we're not only are we terrified for ourselves, but we're terrified for our neighbor who has been in this free fall and who cannot get help.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
This is not enough time to talk to you guys about what is happening. This is where do I take this? This is not enough time.
There will be an opportunity for others to respond. We'll have an opportunity later in the meeting agenda under when city councilors are able to respond, and I'm sure there will be a response.
Just a point of information, Councillor Paul.
Yes.
If a member of the public has something in writing, would it be appropriate for them to send it to the city council at citycouncil@burlingtonvt.gov?
I believe that this person actually has, but I will double check.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next person in the queue is Kelly Devine, and Kelly, I found you and enabled your microphone. You should be good to speak.
Thank you, Council President Paul. I want to start by, thanking the council for bringing forward, as well as Kara Al-Naswari for bringing forward a proposal to invest $100,000 in support of downtown businesses. As people know, we hear a lot and talking a lot about public safety, and I know that it's affected all parts of the city, but it definitely is having a big effect on our downtown. We have talked to a lot of local businesses to ask them about the impacts of the current public safety crisis, and people are reporting that foot traffic is down, and that, their sales are dropping over the period same time last year. And specifically, they talk about public safety concerns as relates to their employees and people being afraid to walk to or from their car, people quitting jobs over not feeling safe. So anyway, I think it's important that this is addressed, and I appreciate it. I would say that my one piece of feedback is that it wasn't clear in the memo about the safety program for downtown workers. And I know that it's a top priority for us and for those with businesses downtown and those who want to visit and come to downtown. So we're asking that the council consider that at least half of the money be dedicated to a public safety program, that hopefully we can have a seat at the table and work with representatives from the administration or the city council to come up with a plan that's going to work. We have done an ambassador program the past couple of years that added a level of safety. We're not sure if that's exactly what we'd need this year, but we feel like there's something that needs to be put into place. And if we create a program like that, we can use some of the PR and marketing around it to tell that story and let the larger community know that Burlington cares about public safety. It's taking seriously the concerns, and that it wants to make sure the community knows that Burlington is a safe place to come and visit, shop, eat out, visit, hang out, be with your friends and neighbors. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much. There will be amended language that will come forward when that agenda item comes to us, Kelly, just so you know. So the next person in the queue is Robin Lloyd. And Robin, I did find you and have enabled your microphone. You should just be able to unmute on your side. That's great. We can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Well, like many of you, I am deeply anguished with what is happening in the Middle East. And the reason I'm bringing it up before you is that that our mayor spoke out about this at a rally on October 15th in support of Israel. I was there, I heard him, and I think perhaps now it's time for him to speak out in support of a ceasefire. I can't see you all. I assume he's there. I'm not suggesting he speak out at this moment, but that he issue a statement in support of a ceasefire, not a humanitarian pause, whatever that is, but a real cessation of the bombing, because the number of children killed and women and people is just so appalling, and we're watching a genocide unfold before our eyes. So please, Mayor Weinberger, will you speak out, and perhaps the city council can also issue a statement? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Sharon Busher. And Sharon, I found you, enabled your microphone. You should be able to speak.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, President
evening.
Paul. So I sent 2 communications this morning, so I know that for the working people at the council, you didn't have a chance to look at them. So one was on the MOU, and Councilor Travers rather, I don't know why I said Tracy, read them into on the consent agenda. But one of the residents from Ward 1 spoke about the need for increased transparency regarding the MOU, an opportunity for people to understand what is in the agreement, an opportunity for us to speak and give feedback prior to, not on the same day as, not as the same meeting that the council will take action, so that you can consider any feedback from the residents. This is a priority for Burlingtonians. I know you all know that. And so I feel like we are in this together. We want this to be a good agreement that works for both the UVM, but mainly for the city and our housing crisis and our quality of life. So thank you. The second communication had to do with the Gateway project. And the bottom line is, there are a number of different proposals included in this this document that is about to be signed if you agree to do this. I feel like those proposals should come forward and let people see them and maybe garner support for them before you sign. I've learned my lesson being on the council that even though it is not a binding agreement, it still is an agreement, and once signed, it has ramifications. So I'm hoping that you will not sign tonight and give the public a chance to give you feedback. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So we have one person who I believe is a Burlington resident who had raised their hand under Ron's iPad. So I've enabled your microphone if you wish to speak.
Hi, Karen, Ron Wanamaker. How are you?
I'm great.
Okay, good. I raised it earlier. I think there have been a lot of valid points brought tonight. I think I'm going to cede my time right now.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have one last person who's joining us online, and that is Peter Duval, not a Burlington resident, but just for simplicity's sake, that's what, we only have one. So we'll go to you, Peter, and then we'll come back into Contois for our last speaker in public forum. I've enabled your microphone, Peter. You should be able to speak.
Thank you for the opportunity to comment tonight. I'm Peter Duval. I live in Underhill. Green Mountain Power, my distribution utility, owns 31% of McNeil Generating Station. I attended the McNeil Joint Owners Committee meeting this afternoon, and there was an air of grimness as the financial situation of the plant was read out. It was clear from the discussion that after brief wartime profits, McNeil is returning to its money-losing ways with a net loss of over $1 million so far in fiscal year 24. City Council will be able to find more details when the meeting packet is put online. Another interesting point in the meeting was when freewheeling promises made to push the BED VGS Evergreen steam transmission line continued. In order to hold fuel consumption and emissions flat at the plant while still supplying steam to the hospital, the turbine would need to be turned down, reducing electrical output by 3 to 4 megawatts. At the meeting, BED agreed to reduce its share of electrical production. This is a major, significant point and should be very carefully looked at. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So that completes the people that have requested to speak online. We have one more person in Contois, and that's Joanne Margaret Brown. Good evening.
Hi, Council President Paul, good to see you. I will start my comment by saying that the people who are heard from off stage, as it were, are much more readily audible than I think I have been in the past. I am here also with regard to the issue in the Mideast. I think we all recognize the fact that there's a relationship between behavior and its consequences. And if there are no consequences over there, there will be no change in the behavior from Hamas. And it has been a very vicious attack from Hamas. I would remind you, however, remind anyone who's listening to me that we are already at war with a major superpower, with Russia. We are already financially overextended in that war, overcommitted, leaving us with the prospect of severe destabilization. I echo the comment from the speaker the speaker who is not here tonight. There's a very grave humanitarian concern over there. If we use if we were able to use UN coordinated economic sanctions instead of military retaliation, it would mean a great deal. We do not really, there are many, many people who do not want to see a bloodbath over there. And if we were able to use broad-based or protracted economic sanctions, it would be helpful.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
So with that, and unless there's anyone else who wishes to speak who is present or online, we will close the public forum at 8:15 and move back to item number 3 with our thanks to all who participated in public forum. Thank you for your input. Item number 3 is the DPW Commission Report, and for this item, we have with us the Chair and Vice Chair of the Public Works Commission, as well as Director Chapin Spencer, Peggy O'Neill Vivanco, and Christopher Demiani. Okay, I got one right. Peggy, Christopher, thank you so much for being here. We're happy to hear your comments, and then we'll go to the council for any questions that we might have.
Great. Hi. Thank you so much for having us, and thank you for your work. We thought Public Works was a hot seat. It's exciting. It really, democracy is exciting. So the Public Works mission, as many of you know, is to steward Burlington's public infrastructure and environment by delivering efficient, effective, and equitable public service. We're here to tell you that infrastructure is really exciting, but we take it for granted, right? We don't it's like your socks in your underwear. You don't think about it until your toe is poking through on your sock, right? We don't think about our sidewalk until like our sidewalk is chunked up. A lot of the projects that our great public works staff bring before us deal with great streets, walk bike plan, our water, our combined sewer service. And so we're just going to give you a quick overview of some of the projects that, that we've worked on as a commission that the staff bring to us. A note that we do have commissioners from most of the wards. I think we're just missing Ward 7. So anyone out in the New North End with the position open. But we have recognized, as you probably have heard as well, reduced police coverage in our city has meant that staff has been working with more robust traffic calming and roadway safety improvements as a way to use infrastructure to create safer streets for all mobility users. So just kind of one example of what we're doing there. We went on a field trip to Waterworks, which was a great opportunity for the commission to see the different systems that the city was piloting to deal with our wastewater treatment plant. And we just had a report from the Water Division about what plans they're going to move forward with. Again, an opportunity to see what was going on, try to address a problem, and have a comprehensive solution for wastewater. And then Chris is going to talk a little bit more about Plan BTV.
Hi everyone, Chris Damiani, Ward 3 resident, Rose Street. So with Plan BTV, as you all know, it was adopted in 2017 as the city's comprehensive plan for walking, biking, and active mobility. Projects include the bikeway network development, pedestrian improvements such as new sidewalks, crosswalks, intersection safety upgrades, and overall policy changes. Every year, the commission hears from city staff, the Walk Bike Council, and local motion on the progress of implementation from recommendations from the report, and provides feedback on how the city can move forward on the many projects outlined in that plan. The commission heard that there have been a significant progress on the plan since 2017. Unfortunately, much of the low-hanging fruit projects have been completed, and new sidewalks have been one of the areas of slow progress. Some highlights include about half of the projects identified in the plan, though, have been completed or partially completed. And as a commission, we will discuss some critical projects that were that the commission reviewed over the past year. When the progress was discussed among commissioners, we emphasized the need to make data-driven decisions, which we have seen the department provide an immense amount for many projects over the past year, and also emphasized the need to dedicate resources towards maintenance of our existing walk-bike infrastructure. In addition, the walk-bike plan allows us to not start from scratch on corridors that were identified in the plan, but instead we can use that as a foundation for the more difficult projects ahead. One example where the walk-bike plan was put into action this past year for the commission's overview was to discuss putting painted bike lanes where underutilized parking spaces were located on Plattsburgh Ave. The commission voted to follow the short-term goals of the plan, to implement the painted bike lanes on both sides after following the department's public engagement plan and going out and looking at relevant data such as parking counts. Another really big project that came before the commission that also was talked about in the walk bike plan was the implementation of the bike lane on North Winooski Ave from North Union to Riverside. During the multiple meetings that the commission reviewed this item, many competing demands for uses of the space were discussed, such as ADA parking, impacts to adjacent streets, local businesses, and social service organizations along the corridor, as well as the need for bike and walk infrastructure. During the process, the commission relayed to staff the importance of regular communication with all users of the corridor and relied heavily on staff to do that, as well as cross-collaborate with other city departments, such as the work that was done with the workforce development staff and outreach to private parking lot owners to find a helpful solution to those who need to travel the corridor via automobile. All in all, the commission voted in favor for the bike lane, and it was implemented this past summer. The commission will be cognizant to work with staff on continuing to monitor the effects and make any necessary recommendations that result from that.
Great. Another project that you're familiar with that has come through the commission through several meetings, and I know there will be more, is the Great Street Main Street project. This is something, it's a gateway project. It fits under our, kind of our guiding documents as the Walk Bike Master Plan. The commission reviewed the overall proposal for the Great Street Main Streets, including recommendation for control, multiple opportunities for public comment, as well as comment from the business sector. We take these comments very seriously and engage with staff on where are the points, what would the outreach look like, whose voices need to be included in these processes. And have moved forward with some ordinance changes for the upcoming project, including, as you probably know, additional dates for more feedback and updates from the staff. So key to the engagement that Public Works does, and in conjunction with the council's passage of expanding youth representation on city boards, the Public Works Commission really has tried to figure out how best we can include youth voice and youth perspectives on the commission. We had a couple of students, high school students over the years, attend a meeting or two. There are real challenges to have a student be able to attend a meeting at 6:30 at night at Public Works, even remotely, as we have found out, not everyone has access to adequate Wi-Fi. The bus doesn't always run to all neighborhoods at that time. So we reached out to Burlington High School, to the Burlington City and Lake program. And that program has each semester about 20 students that are really a microcosm of our very diverse high school, where there are over 30 languages spoken. And we had consultancies with the Burlington City and Lake students to gather the students' input on Main Street, Great Street. They came to a water division meeting and North Winooski Avenue and the Old North End mobility audit. So we're using these relationships to continue working with that youth in that way, to add those voices into and incorporate them into our work. And then Chris has a poignant story about that engagement.
So during the Great Streets, Main Streets work with DPW staff and commissioners, we heard a lot of great dialogue from the high school students involved with the City and Lakes program who provided this crucial piece of youth engagement. Many comments that we heard from students were in reflection of their time traversing the city's first great street, the first street designed to Great Street standards, which was St. Paul. Students were very vocal about what they liked, such as the wideness of the sidewalks and how it didn't feel cramped. We also heard from students who saw the street as needing more engaging elements due to its wide nature and varying skylines. The best example of how this session resulted in real change for the design of the main streets, great streets, was from Cosmo, who is a BHS student and regular rider of the bus system, who utilizes the service for independent transportation and movement around the city. It was great for Commissioner O'Neill-Vivanco, Commissioner Hogan, and myself to hear Cosmo's comment after observing where Great Street's infrastructure meets a GMT bus stop at the corner of St. Paul and Maple, where stormwater garden infrastructure was designed to help with the surrounding impervious surface. Cosmo raised the issue that this infrastructure, combined with a majority of passengers using the rear door of the bus to get on and off, provided an obstacle for people navigating safely between the sidewalk and the bus. I will disclose that my job is working for GMT as a transit planner, so it was great feedback to hear wearing both hats in that situation. When the design of Main Street was being discussed at the commission level and at the level between GMT and DPW staff, this feedback led directly to finding a design solution that allows for transit passengers to board and alight safely at marked intersections, and we are very thankful for Cosmo bringing this to everyone's attention.
Great.
That's all we have. Any questions?
Great, thank you. So are there any questions from counselors or comments from counselors? Counselor Carpenter.
Just thank you. You've got a very full plate, and you're going to have a fuller plate, so just thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Any other counselors who have any comments about the report? That's a sign that the report is extremely well done.
Remember, infrastructure is exciting.
Thank you so much for being here. We greatly appreciate it. And please extend to the other members of the commission our appreciation and thanks. Have a good evening. This brings us to item number 5, which is climate emergency reports. Are there any counselors or the administration who wishes to offer a climate emergency report? Counselor Bergman?
Yes. You know, we're inundated by disaster news, so we might have missed it, but apparently this week published, maybe it was published today or published last week. No, I guess it was published last week. Scientists have estimated that by early 2029, if greenhouse gas continue to be emitted at the current rate, the planet may be unable to remain below the threshold of 1.5 degrees Celsius of global warming. That is by 2029, 6 years. And just to be clear, what that carbon budget, what it means is that the net amount of carbon dioxide that humans can still emit without exceeding 1.5 degrees will run out 3 years earlier than the previous expected expiration year of 2032. We are in deep trouble. So as we look forward to our debates on the carbon fee ordinance, on the steam pipe project, I hope that you will join me in being absolutely as ambitious as we possibly can, going places and asking for things that we did not think was possible and may be hard, but that we need to. And let me end by saying I consistently talk about my babies, and you know that I speak of 2 in particular. But this is also about all the old people who are going to be stuck in about 10 years in cascading disasters like the hurricane that occurred and hit Acapulco with amazing speed, and that hit France, the other side of the world, the same way in timeframes that we just had no ability to deal with. So thank you for listening to my disaster talk again, but I think it's really essential for us to take this seriously and the pushing that needs to happen seriously, particularly as we look at the questions that are going to be coming before us in the next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bergman. Mayor Weinberger.
Thanks, President Paul. We had a exciting announcement a week ago, Monday, down at the McNeil campus, where we, with Senator Bernie Sanders and the President Garamella of UVM and others, announced the opening of what we are calling the UVM Solar Research and Training Facility at McNeil. This is a relocation of a facility that was outside of Burlington and was losing a site here inside of Burlington that keeps it keeps going in important innovations and experimentation happening at the university. It's a culmination of a multi-year partnership among the City of Burlington and McNeil joint owners, along with UVM and Encore Renewable Energy. There is now a 50 kilowatt, there's a solar array that generates 50 kilowatts of power built by Encore. What is unusual and really interesting about the way they've done this is that this array, which probably it involves several hundred yards of arrays, and there are different types of solar panels being tested amongst these arrays. So there are some that are double-sided and get reflections off the earth, as well as straight from the sun. There's different types of cells being tested, and what this does is it goes beyond some of the general research that's out there and gives very specific Vermont, Burlington research on how these panels perform in our climate. So the BED team is excited to become the host of this facility for the next 5 years at least. And we appreciate Senator Sanders being able to secure $150,000 of federal funds. It's a great new partnership, and I think a great example of the way in which we need a lot of innovation throughout the community to advance towards our climate goals. Thanks, President Paul.
Thank you very much, Mayor Weinberger. If there are no other councilors with a climate emergency report, then we'll move on to item number 6, which is the public health and safety emergency reports. Is there any councilor or the administration that wishes to offer a report of public health and public safety? Mayor Weinberger, and then we'll go to Councilor Grant.
Thank you, President Paul. And I just lost my notes here for a sec. Thank you. So there were 3 updates I wanted to give. One is about the overdose response team. This was approved in early October by the council, a proposal that came forward from Chief LaChance in response to the challenges he and his crews are facing in the downtown in response to public concern and the conversations that we've been having at the community stat table for a long time. The team was deployed on the 16th of October, and so far, in less than a month since that first deployment, has made a total of 270 outreach contacts. When they do these contacts, they leave behind frequently bandage kits and Narcan kits, and they make referrals to community partners, including Safe Harbor, the Community Health Center, Howard Center, and referrals to our own BPD community service liaisons. They responded to 6 overdose doses last week and have been averaging 20 to 30 medical calls per week total. This is a voluntary overtime detail, as the council will remember, but it's been very well subscribed to so far. Almost all the hours are being filled each week. And the chief continues to put considerable personal attention into standing up this new program. I want to just share with the council again and the public that the administration continues to be very focused about improvements to our treatment system and improving access to treatment. We remain very concerned that the fentanyl crisis has eroded much of the functionality of the existing hub and spoke system, and that we need to have that system evolve and change to this evolving crisis, which is presenting very differently than just a few years ago. In particular, we think there is a urgent and very strong need for expanded access to methadone treatment, and we are working with the with partners to explore and push for improved transit access to the one place in Chittenden County where methadone access is available, out on San Remo Drive, as well as the possibility of a second dosing location. We're working hard on these initiatives, and we'll have much more to share on this soon. And then finally, I did want to share that the detail that many downtown stakeholders have been very supportive of having 2 dedicated officers on Church Street for most of the week is going to, it was originally supposed to expire at the end of August, but this too is a voluntary detail, but it is one that is being extended through the end of the year. The individuals officers have chosen that assignment, and that takes us to the point when we expect 6 new officers to return from the academy in late December, field training beginning, and we'll be able to assess how we keep a strong presence, a stronger presence even in the downtown beyond that point. I know this is a detail that many downtown stakeholders were concerned about and wanted to share that with you and the public, President Paul. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Weinberger. We'll go to Councilor Grant and then to Councilor Doherty.
Thank you. So what I'd like to talk about this evening are just some questions that I've been asking related to the numerous complaints in the city about cases. Are they being brought? Are they not being brought? Processing time with the state attorney's office, etc. So I want to preface this by just giving a quick reminder that if you're a Burlington resident, visitor, definitely watch our city council meeting from October 10th, as it had a lot of very important information. Talking to and trying to have an understanding of the data around the cases that are being submitted is a little bit difficult because we can't break it out just by Burlington, because the court system, as was mentioned in our last meeting, isn't able to do that. But we can say that for Chittenden County, there are just under 3,000 active cases. And those numbers include 197 pending aggravated assault cases, 53 pending assault and robbery cases, 176 pending burglary cases, 645 pending retail theft cases, and 204 pending operation without owner's consent, AKA car thefts. So these cases, there are cases. So we have to think about if a case can be made and sent to Sarah George's office, then that's the first part in order for her to proceed with it, her office to proceed with it. So we have a lot of misinformation in our community. If you haven't been contacted by the state's attorney's office, if you're a victim of a crime, then that means your case was not brought to that office. So there's a lot of additional conversations in the city about how people feel what is or is not happening with their individual situation. So they can ask and get more information. The response time right now to incidents, especially online incidents, is extremely slow due to the backlog, and they see it. And part of the issue is if a incident because of the backlog, isn't worked within a certain period of time, then that individual who's involved in the incident, a criminal act, can be out there doing other things before a case reaches the state attorney's office. That is hugely frustrating to people. There were some examples that were given to me, and I need to verify what I can and cannot share publicly, but they were really just very interesting in terms of when something's submitted online with photos, descriptions, knowing who the individuals are because they were previously trespassed, and then when the affidavits actually get to the office. We're talking months. So it doesn't make people feel better, but hopefully having this information and making sure that we are correcting disinformation in the community is really important, because this type of messaging gets out to people who feel that they can commit crimes with impunity because it's giving the impression that nothing is being done. And I understand that feeling. I hear it all the time from residents and from businesses. I would just say that if you have a specific question about an incident that you filed, and if it was actually brought to the state's attorney, ask about the status. And that is all I have. Hopefully, each meeting will be able to look at other types of data a little bit differently. Thank you.
Thanks very much. We'll go to Councillor Doherty and then Councillor McGee.
Thanks, President Paul. We heard during the public comment section of today's meeting from Ms. Devine of the Burlington Business Association, and she referred to an ongoing survey that association is doing. I thought it would be worth a moment to provide some more of the details from that survey that I think have been shared with everyone on the City Council. So this is from the Burlington Business Association. Their members report that 80%, over 80% of their members report that foot traffic is down this year compared to the same time last year. Over 50% report that their sales are down year over year. Half of their respondents have had staff quit in the past year, citing public safety concerns. And over half responded yes to the question, are you considering closing or relocating your business to a location outside downtown Burlington? These survey results are unfortunately consistent with what I have been hearing anecdotally and what I know the rest of the City Council and the Mayor's office have also been hearing anecdotally. And mindful of Councilor Bergman's comment on there being a lot of disaster-related reports that can sometimes drown one another out and detract from our sense of urgency. I do want to make clear that, you know, I cite these statistics and I cite these survey results and bring them to everyone's attention, not as a sort of portent of gloom and doom. I have a business downtown. I'm downtown almost every day. Almost every day I walk downtown, and we have a vibrant, wonderful downtown full of amazing restaurants, full of wonderful cultural opportunities, music, the arts, wonderful hospitality industry, and wonderful retail shops full of our friends and neighbors who work incredibly hard every day. Having said that, call this a canary in the coal mine or a red flag or whatever analogy you want to use. These are important numbers to be hearing. These are important signs to be paying attention to, and I think it's absolutely essential that we maintain our sense of urgency here on the council to take whatever steps that are within our power to support our local businesses, to support our downtown, and to make improvements on restoring law and order and public safety. And I think it's very, very heartened to hear from the mayor that we're going to see increased police presence in the downtown corridor, and we have to continue to make these incremental improvements because we are at an absolute inflection point here downtown.
Thank you so much, Councillor Doherty. We'll go to Councillor McGee.
Thank you, President Paul. I just want to speak briefly related to the public comment that we heard from Devin Ayers regarding a neighbor experiencing very serious mental health crisis over a long period of time and not receiving much, if any, response from the police department or from the Howard Center. And I think this points to every conversation we've had about public safety over the past many months. Our systems of care are completely broken. And it points to the fact that we still don't have the CARES team operational even after us making some progress to stand that team up earlier this year. I would like us to hear an update on where that's at. And I just hope that we don't lose sight of the fact that a lot of the suffering that we're seeing on our streets, a lot of what is being attributed as making downtown feel unsafe is the result of our systems of care being so deeply broken. And I do not want us to turn away from that and advocate for putting more people in prison as a short-term solution to making the downtown feel more comfortable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councillor McGee. We'll go to Councillor Zhang.
Thank you, President. And I think this is also related to one comment we heard around the safety of a child due to an accident. Just wanted to report that the Vermont New American Advisory Council did hold a meeting on Friday from 2 to 4:30 at the Somali Bantu Community Association. And at that meeting, we invited leaders of the Department of Children and Families, and it was overall to understand issues related to minority children being held at the DCF custody. So after those leaders left, leaders of VNAC stayed and had a conversation about the issue of the boy, not only from the perspective of the court, but also from the perspective of the mental health and well-being. I think what people do not pay attention to, it's one of his best friend also passed away due to an accident. This is also, the Somali Bantu community in general are very appreciative of many people trying to support the child. And I think when it comes to legal perspective, this is into court, we cannot talk about all the details. But just for people to know that this child is not being left alone. There were also reports of appreciating Vermont VT Digger by not naming the child, by not putting a child's picture on their reporting. I think it was also appreciated as well. Just wanted to let you know, we also invited the Director of the Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging of the City of Burlington, but she could not make it due to another meeting that she was assisting. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Councillor Zhang. If there's no other comments, Councillor Grant.
Thank you. So we're in, I find myself frequently talking about balance. We need a balance between a quote-unquote law and order approach and harm reduction and our other types of social services where we still don't have coverage 24/7. We are in a situation where we don't have a street crimes unit, and I assume we'll be notified when one can be set up again, but that is where we are. That's the reality of our situation. So I want to be very careful, and I would encourage everyone on the council to be very careful about what we promise the public, because there's these requests for more officers, and that until the the building back of the department is going very slow. We've done what we can do as a council in terms of approving pay raises, approving sign-on bonuses and retention bonuses, approving a contract that has very, very strong protections that aren't always in line with oversight and accountability, but we did that.
Councilor Grant?
Hold on, I have a right to speak.
I do.
So
You
I
do.
have a right to speak. I don't
but I
want to
do-
get into an argument with you
No, but
over my right to speak. I already dealt with that earlier
I
today.
agree with you, but this is an opportunity for an update,
And,
not to just
and
speak
it
about
is,
the
it
issue.
is important because we still receive emails asking for this increase that doesn't exist right now, and we have to be careful about promising or leading people to think that that is something that can happen when in the immediate near future it can't. And we have to be real about that. And I know that's difficult. And goes against what people want to hear. So that's why it's really important to have this dialogue with the people who work downtown, with businesses, to look at the other things that we can do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other councilors that wish to offer a public health or safety emergency report? Seeing none, we will move on to item 7, which is our consent agenda. Is there a motion to move our consent agenda and take the actions indicated? Thank you, Councilor Doherty. Seconded by Councilor Barlow. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. That means that we have approved our consent agenda, which brings us to our deliberative agenda. With item 8.1 removed, we have 2 items on the deliberative agenda. There are time limits on these, and we've agreed to those by approving our agenda. We'll do the best that we can to keep to those time limits. Just wanted to remind councilors of the 5-minute rule. That 5-minute rule is per agenda item. It is not per speaking opportunity. Please self-monitor and be mindful of your time. I will kindly interrupt you if you have gotten beyond or are getting very close to the 5 minutes. And that is just an opportunity for all of us to treat each other fairly and be respectful of all councilors for their time. The first, as I said, the first item is removed, so the second item becomes our first item, which is 8.2, which is support for the redevelopment of the Gateway Block through further due diligence of a private-public partnership. And for this item, we have the CEDO Assistant for Director for Community Works, Samantha Dunn, as well as CEDO Director Brian Pine. I believe you have a presentation for us. And then we will go to a motion and then any further discussion. Thanks for being here.
Great, thank you very much. For the record, it's Brian Pine, Director of the City's Community and Economic Development Office. Tonight we are here to discuss the potential, I highlight the word potential, redevelopment of what the Gateway Block, what we refer to as the Gateway Block, which includes Memorial Auditorium, the public parking lot, the fire station, the library, the church is all part of that block. What it doesn't mean is that it's a foregone conclusion that anything is being knocked down or built or there is no foregone conclusion. I just want to be clear, this is essentially an agreement to explore the redevelopment opportunities and to gauge public sentiment around those redevelopment opportunities and to see that we can find a way to advance the multiple goals that the community has in a way that is cost-effective given the constraints that we face as a city. We've obviously tried many different things regarding both the parking lot and Memorial over the years that Samantha will get into in a minute, but we feel that an opportunity has sort of come to us that will achieve many of our goals as a community around both Memorial and the Gateway, the entire block. So some of the key things that I just want to highlight is that this is really to explore and conduct what is in real estate referred to as the due diligence, which means getting into great levels of detail, centered around the redevelopment of the block. And our goal here is, with a limited city financing capabilities, given our current constraints and our obligations to such projects as the high school, that we need to pursue a public-private partnership, which we'll talk more about both tonight and in the coming weeks and months. This gives the mayor really, a green light to enter into this letter of intent. And I want to be clear, there were comments made, there's been written materials submitted. We'll respond to the written materials that were submitted by former Councilor Busher, because there's some really good questions asked, for which we have, I think, lots of information to share with both former Councilor Busher and the rest of the council and the community, so we'll make that a public response to see that. The letter of intent is to fully explore the different roles, responsibilities, opportunities, and the structure of how this would move forward in a way that both protects the public and protects the public assets and ensures that the goals of redevelopment and revitalization are achieved, in the most cost-effective way. I'm going to let Samantha walk us through some of the background, including specifically for Memorial Auditorium and the details of this potential opportunity that we think really merit further exploration. Thanks.
Thanks, Brian. My name is Samantha Dunn, Assistant Director for Community Works. For folks that are following along with the slideshow that was posted, there's been a few tweaks, only of organization, not any information, but just in preparing some reorganization. So if you look at the slide on the screen, that's the one I'll be talking about. And this is a slide most of us have seen before here, coming to talk about Memorial Auditorium, which I've been thinking about a lot since I started working for the city 2 years ago. We've got a few new bullets at attempts to redevelop this property, and we're continuing to work on it. For folks who aren't familiar with the slide, Memorial Auditorium was built in the 1920s and served the city extremely well for a long time. In the 1990s, it became clear the city was struggling to keep up with repairs on the building. The first failed bond vote to take care of those repairs was in 1994, so there was clear capital investment needed at that time that was not supported by the voters. In 2016, the building needed to be closed for public safety reasons. That was closely followed by a robust public process in 2018 to really go out to the community and understand what an adaptive reuse of this building for the community would look like. The community hub proposal brought all of that information together, and the city moved forward to try to find a private operator for the Memorial Community Hub. COVID happened. That process was put on hold. The city attempted an additional bond vote in 2021 that would have brought $15 million to the building to take care, again, of the structural stabilization and take care of code issues that would allow people back into the building. It was part of a larger bond vote that also failed. In 2022, there was $1 million in the successful bond vote for the stabilization and future exploration of the building. In the same year, voters approved the bond for the new high school, which we've talked about many times, took up the bonding capacity for the city and really took that community hub option off the table as one the city could move forward with, as it required significant public investment. Because of that, we moved forward with an RFP to try and identify a private partner for redevelopment of Memorial Auditorium. There was a proposal selected, but even before we got to come here and announce that news that we were excited about, that team that was called Barbarossa actually withdrew their proposal because of the financial feasibility or the lack of financial feasibility of being able to rehab that building. Following that, we worked over the summer to facilitate some visioning with our planning staff and local design, members of our design community, and stakeholders that I'll talk about a little bit later. In addition to Memorial, tonight we're starting to talk now about the whole block. This was new, Brian reminded me, there was a new public safety facility proposed at the parking lot at Main and Winooski that was voted down in the 90s. In 2013, the YMCA looked to occupy Memorial Auditorium, and the balance of the block was going to be student housing. I believe that proposal was unsuccessful for a number of reasons, but one was because we were unable to reach agreement with adjacent property owners. That's really required to look at the whole block. The 2016 was the UVM Arena with a hotel. UVM determined that after quite a bit of study that facility would be better off located closer to campus. 2018 was the community hub that we talked about. In 2021, the Gateway Block was considered as a site for the new Burlington High School, but was deemed to not be the right location. And then, as I mentioned, in 2022, we had the RFP and selected a proposal for the redevelopment of Memorial. So long before I got here, the city has been working diligently to figure out how to create a gateway at this block. I have a few slides from Plan BTV with notes directly from Megan Tuttle because she's unable to be here tonight. But our Plan BTV downtown and waterfront plan was adopted a decade ago. So in 2013, the city spent a lot of time and engaging with the public and thinking about the whole Main Street corridor, starting at the Amtrak station, which we've now successfully reinvigorated, and culminating at Memorial Auditorium of what should be happening here. And this work provided a vision for how underutilized sites could be redeveloped, and the infill buildings could help expand housing and other economic development opportunities. The plan specifically recommended redevelopment study for this entire block, including a redeveloped or repurposed Memorial Auditorium and possibly the fire station, as well as a transformation of the city's parking lot. It explored different possible intensities for redevelopment, so you can see in this image those different intensities in the view, and these studies help to inform the form-based code that now is active in the downtown. So what now? Action for this building is required. It's required to address the ongoing cost and liability of Memorial Auditorium. It's required to help us chart a direction for key capital activities in the downtown that are related, not necessarily right on the block, but are related. It's required for us to activate underutilized properties, creating public benefit, and thinking about how we can use our inactive or dormant city properties to address our housing shortage. And as we move forward to think about that action, we keep the priorities from that 2018 community engagement process front and center. These were the top 5 needs or uses identified in that community hub out of the 2,500 surveys that were completed, but of course we do have the full list. As we expand our thinking past the redevelopment of Memorial to the entire block, we have additional priorities than those identified in the community survey. And the first is to make sure that the Gateway Block lives up to its name in creating an attractive and welcoming entrance to the downtown, that it provides mixed income housing. It preserves our veterans memorials. It includes public space, including space dedicated to youth with opportunity for input on programming from the city and community. It includes public parking, and it will grow our grand list and create long-term economic benefit for the community. So some of the barriers to those previous projects we saw on the slide before include the ravine sewer that cuts diagonally across the Main and Winooski parking lot, lack of control of the private land that Brian likes to call the hole in the donut, even though it's not donut shaped, but it's the pink area on one of those first slides. It's a very small area that's privately held. The inability for us to finance the 2018 vision with limited bonding capacity, and really the cost of repairing and renovating Memorial Auditorium may make adaptive reuse financially infeasible without public funding, so those funding resources. The opportunity we see in public-private partnership is that first, to sort of address those barriers, the ravine sewer is being relocated as part of the Great Streets Main Street project. There's private investment that would help us achieve our public objectives. Housing crisis requires creative approaches to city assets. It would grow our grand list and other revenue streams to support city finances broadly, and has the potential to advance broader block redevelopment has been envisioned in our planning documents for the past decade. The specific opportunity we're looking at tonight is a partnership with local experienced developers, Eric Farrell and Joe Larkin. These are two individuals that represent businesses that have built thousands and thousands of housing units in Burlington and Chittenden County. They hold site control of the hole in the donut. And they have a vision for the gateway block that aligns with our city goals and priorities that comes from a love for Burlington and a long record of securing the major project financing that would certainly be needed to pull off the project. So the proposed letter of intent that went out with the packet is, I think as Brian really focused on, is a non-binding document that would allow us to explore whether or not partnership is feasible. It would look at the roles, responsibilities. I'm going to go to the next slide, but the print is very small. Roles, responsibilities, and capacities of both parties, the city and the private partners, property valuation, ownership, and redevelopment structures, such as what is the value of the property? Will it be leased or sold in this kind of partnership? Development program priorities and mutual efforts to overcome potential barriers. There's a reason that this redevelopment hasn't happened. It's because there are a lot of barriers, and it is going to require creativity, partnership, and hard work to continue to figure out how to overcome those barriers. And then we'll look obviously at logistics and interrelated details. The member of the fire department checked in with me that relocating the central fire station seemed a funny thing to put under logistics, which I agreed. We had a good conversation about it. I think that it's there because as we think about redevelopment, we also think about a recent study that the city fire department had that did talk about relocating the central fire station. And as we think about redevelopment, we would want to take that study back up and make sure that was being looked at in tandem. So the proposed next steps here, if we receive the support from City Council in moving in this direction, would be to move into this initial due diligence period. The city will retain the services of Jeffrey Glassberg, who has lots of experience working on the gateway block to help us with this feasibility assessment. And the goal of this period would really be to answer key questions about the feasibility of a partnership, And if the partnership does seem feasible, the parties would work together to develop a development agreement that would obviously come back before the council. The public would be engaged throughout the process. This initial due diligence is really more about public awareness and making sure people have their questions answered as best we can when things are very initial. There would be much more significant public engagement in the sort of second comprehensive development feasibility phase of this project, where we would be asking for input on what new public assembly space looks like, what new public program space looks like, what new youth program space looks like on this block. So, again, that would happen during that comprehensive development feasibility that we think would take the balance of 2024. Questions? I thought you had a question. Questions?
Thank you so much. So before we go to questions from the council, we'll go to a motion on the item, and I'll go to Councilor Barlow for that motion, please.
Thank you, President Paul. I move that we waive the reading and adopt the resolution.
Thank you, Councilor Barlow, seconded by Councilor Shannon. So we have a second, we have a first and we have a second. We'll now go to the council for questions and comments before we go for a vote on the resolution. Councilor Bergman, to be followed by Councilor Hightower.
Thank you. Let me just pull up the resolution. Don't start my clock yet, please. I just want to make sure what, supports furthering, enter it. Okay. So let me just start with saying that on the letter of intent, which I think is at the heart of the resolution, I mean, we're effectively resolving to, to agree to sign on to it. I am supportive of the work that the items to be addressed in a development agreement. So all those things that go down there and the things that follow that, like the access to the gateway block, etc. My issues are with the language of the vision and whatever that other thing is called, and goals of redevelopment. And as a process, we got this not that long ago. We got lots of stuff on our agenda, not the least of which we dealt with in executive session. So the opportunities to say, well, like on these vision and goals of redevelopment, I don't like this. We don't really have it. Now, I'm going to go through a list of issues with that. If there were a way for us to break that off, to bring it back, to have a conversation about what it is that we think are the goals, that I think would be much more proper and more in line with us being able to exercise our fiduciary duty, which we've got. And right now, I feel without this that I'm just going to be a rubber stamp without even enough time to have worked through in, say, an executive session, the amendment of this particular document. So I'm looking to be able to advance this. I hear this is all sort of very preliminary, so we should be able to make this happen in a way that actually meets that. Let me get to some details. So you made mention of the firehouse. My question would be, you don't have to answer it, is what are we contemplating for a location and all of that? So here we say we're looking to relocate it. It's like, this is not right in the language here. It commits us to something that is always used, and I would do it after the fact to say, look, we've already approved this. We're on the road. It's like the start of a railroad. I don't think we should get there. Let me just state for the record, I do not support the privatization of the land under Memorial or the firehouse or anything else. I am open to long-term leases. There's a distinction. I don't want to sell away public property. I think that the Veterans Memorial should be significant. I don't generally say these things, but my father's brother, of whom I'm named after, was mortally wounded on D-Day. I have his flag in my house, right? I take veteran stuff pretty seriously, and this should be a significant memorial. I am not a fan of the commitment being made as a stated priority for a hotel. It may be that a hotel would make sense there, but to lay it out at the front end, I just don't see any reasoning for it. Why not do the same in this for the youth and art spaces that we were talking about and that they came from? So, and I like rooftop green spaces, but South Burlington has just mandated that bigger buildings are going to have solar arrays on their roofs, right? They've got that. Why are we not including those things in this, including, you know, as a goal, a thermal energy network to make sure that we not only do the best job of insulating and what have you, but we're capturing the waste heat in the systems that we've got, and we are then doing all of the non-emitting thermal and electrical work that we possibly can there, so that this building is not going to be contributing to that climate disaster which is awaiting us in 3 years, right? So those are my comments. If there's a way that we can separate the two and come back and we can have conversations about these visions, I'd love to do that. I'll wait to offer a motion to strike that out, to strike this vision out and get to work on it more until more comments. And thank you. I don't know, did I make my 5 minutes or not?
Just barely.
Just barely. I'll shut up then. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We'll go to Councilor Hightower and then Councilor Carpenter and Barlow and Shannon. If I can remember that.
Yeah, I'll agree a little bit more vaguely with Councilor Bergman, which is just, I think a lot of the stuff that we got out of the public input that was less specific isn't in the goals and vision, which a goals and vision is generally pretty high level. So I think some of the things like that we talked about a lot, like keeping public ownership, things like that, I just want to make sure that those are included, especially because it sounds like, whereas kind of on the developer side, it's on their sole discretion. With us, it's like it's in line with our goals and vision as laid out in this document. I just want to make sure that some of that stuff that was in the early presentations is in there, although I do appreciate all of the detail that is in there because I think it's a stronger hold, but I think we also want to add some of the more general visions. The one thing that I will say that I don't understand, and I would like to ask that as a question if at all possible, is the hotel, just because if they want it in there, that's great, but I think because we've seen so many hotel projects proposed and then not happen, I just wouldn't want this to be a difficulty or a burden, especially when we just allowed hotels in other parts of the city, including the South End redistrict. I don't think it's a must-have, so I'm just curious where that came from.
It definitely came from their proposal to the city that they think it would be an important part of the success of the block.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, as long as we're not putting that limitation on. But yeah, so I would say I would, before this goes back to the developer, really would like to see some of those framing high-level visions that we got from the community, as well as I think the great kind of more detailed ones that came, it sounds like, from their proposal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilor Hightower. We'll go to Councilor Carpenter to be followed by Councilors Barlow and Shannon.
Thanks. Just 2 comments. I want to make sure for the public we're clear that there was a change in ownership in that donut hole, which is allowing us to do this. The new owners are not the impediment. They are the partner.
Actually,
Is
there has not been a change
Well,
in ownership.
Are they going to look, is that something that's on the table, I understand?
Yes, they have site control. It's just,
Okay, that's what I meant, excuse me. Not ownership, but a different partner than the previous. And just an editorial comment, as most of you know, I serve for Executive Director for Vermont Housing Finance Agency for 20 years. It's now been 24 years. I cannot tell you how many times, how many people, how many developers this building has been discussed with. It's a behemoth. It is not, people view it as an opportunity, but it is not. And so I'm really excited about this, particularly with the amount of potential housing that could be in there. I'm excited for a hotel. I don't disagree that we want to keep the visioning in there, but I visioned it for the last 24 years, both professionally and personally, as someone who used to go to the Battle of the Bands. And so I think this is really key, that your little timeline, that we remember how much conversation there's been on this.
Thank you very much, Councilor Carpenter. We'll go to Councilor Barlow and then Councilor Shannon.
Thank you, President Paul. I'm actually really excited to see what Eric Farrell and Joe Larkin come up with. And my understanding is we're not committing anything at this point. And so I'm encouraged by that, but I also understand that this has to make economic sense for the developers. So if they need a hotel to make it to work from a development standpoint, I think we should be open to that. And then lastly, I just want to say, I do think that we do need a lot of community engagement on this, and the last resolve clause in the resolution sort of commits us and to the partners to a process to continue to engage the community and encourage public input on the redevelopment and use of the city's gateway block. So I'm hoping that as they go through due diligence, if we approve this tonight, that's sort of at the front end of the process, so we can incorporate the visioning that's been done and some of the other work as you laid out for us that's been done historically on this site. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Barlow. We'll go to Councilor Shannon.
Thank you, President Paul. First, I have a question, which is, there was something about naming, and is it being named the Gateway Block? Is that part of the commitment? I was a little...
No.
Okay, it seemed odd, but that's how I read it, so I just wanted that clarification. Thank you. I do agree with Councilor Bergman about the importance of preserving the memorial heritage. And that was one of my concerns with thinking it was called the Gateway Block, you know, the memorial block. If we're losing the entire building, might not be if we could at least memorialize it. I would note, when I came on the council, I was actually president of Preservation Burlington, and this building is very dear to me, as it is to, I think, many people in Burlington, be a moth or not. And I would ask that Preservation Burlington be included, now, and have that conversation about what are the really key things to try and preserve, with the understanding that we have had a lot of community process. We have heard a lot from the community about what's important to the community, and we've tried to bring that vision to reality so many times, and we haven't been able to, and it hasn't been supported by the voters when we've asked for bonds. And I think we now have to recognize that reality and take advantage of this opportunity, because we can't afford to continue the way we are now. It's really sad, and it's a shame for our city. So having this opportunity, I do see it as an opportunity, sad as I am about losing the building. I'm also concerned about the preservation of the firehouse and the public use that's envisioned. I think the language in here is very broad. We don't know the details on that yet, and that's going to be critical, I think, for a lot of people. Not only is it sad to lose the historic structure, but the community use that we enjoyed for so long with this public asset. And I understand that if we were to offer some flexibility on the inclusionary units, there might be some advantage both to the inclusionary units and those who live in them, as well as to this project. And I wouldn't want to take that, I know, we have our inclusionary ordinance, but I would ask that other options be presented to the council so that we could consider if we think doing something different than what we currently have on the books might be beneficial to everyone. And again, I really do feel urgency with this project. I wish that were not the case, but I appreciate your work. I appreciate local developers coming forward to hopefully help us get beyond the impasse that we have had since at least the 1990s, I think. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Councillor Shannon. We'll go to Councillor McGee, and then Councillor Jang, and then Grant.
Thank you, President Paul, and thank you both for the presentation and the work that's gone into the letter of intent so far. The only comment that I have, aside from agreeing with Councillor Bergman's comments, relate to the date at the bottom, near the bottom of the letter, the execution of a development agreement on or before March 29th, 2024. I just know that that's going to come pretty close to the last meeting of this council and mayoral transition, so I would just ask that to the extent that it is possible, if we're going to be asked to vote on a development agreement, that we get any information or details well in advance of that, so that we're not asked to make a last-minute decision on this before some of us leave the building. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McGee. We'll go to Councillor Jang, to be followed by Councillor Grant.
Thank you, President, and thank you for the presentation. And I am in complete agreement with Councillor Bergman about the process. And from my perspective, process do matter here. And also, we know that this is not no binding document, and even if you vote in support or not in support, you guys will continue to do your due diligence and to work with them. And I think without this also, you should still be able to bring input based on what they are thinking, the developers, and try to trigger responses from the community about what do they think, right? But at the same time, I would have loved to have a better process, because I thought that this was going to come back to us in 4 months. I made my calculation a long time ago, but it seems it's in front of us right now. Yes, but I think one element that I am not agreement with anybody here is we should understand our realities as well. I think our love to a building, and this building is not going anywhere, the land is not going anywhere, this community will not lose it. It's just we now have people with the resources to develop it for the beautification of our downtown, and also to keep the historical perspective of the building. I think, but let's not rule out the idea of selling the building. And I'm glad to see here you did not take it out. You had both lease or purchase. And I love that aspect about this. But at the same time, I'm in agreement in terms of the process with Councillor Bergman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jang. We'll go to Councillor Grant.
Thank you. So I too agree with all the comments that Councillor Bergman mentioned. I would have liked to have seen some green initiatives, or just saying that, hey, we're going to be looking at green initiatives and make this a green project, a green, building. Like when I think about what UVM did at the Davis Center, for example, they had really specific goals to make that a green building, and it was just very much publicized. I will, even though it was already mentioned, I will say again, I have a lot of problems with the process not being open, not including the public in it, and there was, issues around the previous RFPs, and that process not really being, the public wants to know who's responding, right? And so all of a sudden we have this letter of intent and this resolution, and it's just dropped from the sky. I mean, I know it's not dropped from the sky, but as far as the public's concerned, and heck, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, like today's the first time I'm hearing about it, or, you know, when it was posted. So it's a concern that we still move in ways that the intention may not be to be secretive, but a lot of people care about this area. A lot of people care about what's going on, and a lot of people would like to, you know, have the information. I'm loath to vote against it, but I do want to make those concerns clear. And I think also we need to think in terms, there was one, should represent a meaningful connection between the hill section of the city and the Church Street Marketplace. Why just the hill section? I mean, that location goes to the Old North End, goes to the South End, goes down to the water. Why are we limiting it in that way? Why is the vision limited? This is, you can get to the city from all different directions. So I feel we just keep discounting other parts of the city when we think about our vision. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Grant. Are there any other councilors who wish to speak to the resolution before us? Well, we'll go to the first round. We'll go to Councilor Travers, and then we'll go to Councilor Bergman.
I would just like to briefly say, because I've heard from a number of the colleagues on the council with respect to public process here. I know I've only been on the council for a couple of years, served on the NPA for some time before this. As other folks here have said, I think perhaps more than any other project that I can think of in the city's recent history, there's been extensive public process, public feedback, including through the RFP process, which really exhausted a number of other options, as you know, with respect to this item. You know, speaking frankly, I'm actually not sure if even a letter of intent like this needs to come before the council, or whether or not it would have been within your authority to simply engage in due diligence without coming to the council. So I actually want to flip the narrative here a little bit and thank you for bringing this letter of intent to the city council for our consideration, because I very well know that you were not obligated to do that, and could have actually continued with the due diligence that's listed here and not come before the council until you had a draft development agreement. So I'm very grateful for you being here now. I'm excited to support this. I know it's very early on in the process, and so we'll look forward to, no doubt, not just the engagement that we'll be doing here with the developers, but also the public process that will continue, including once we have a draft development agreement for us to look at. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Councilor Travers. If there's anyone else who wishes to speak on a set for Mayor Weinberger.
Thank you, President Paul, and I appreciate Councilor Travers' that last point. I do, I hear concerns about, in the public forum and at this table, about process, and I do think it's important to call out, we have to be really explicit. This is the very beginning. We have a long way to go with this. If councilors who are deliberating supporting this or not, I would, really I think what we need to know is there interest from this council in taking this step of working with the property owner, the individuals who have secured site control of this in-holding that has been a obstacle to some of the past redevelopment efforts. If there is a desire for us to see whether we can work with them and put together a plan for the whole block, I would encourage you to vote yes, even if there are details of the document or exactly the process to this point that you have questions or concerns about. There certainly, we would welcome input from counselors during this due diligence period. I think the point that the green building value should have been called out more strongly here, I think is a fair point. To a very real degree, I think we require any building to meet very high performance standards already, so we almost think about that less than sometimes we did in the past, given the dramatic new requirements we've put on all new construction, which certainly would apply here. But I think the value of pushing even further, calling that out is a helpful thing. And I think we'll just add that. Similarly, if there are other thoughts from tonight, councilors want to make sure are considered in this due diligence period, we're at an early stage where that input can certainly be given and reacted to. So I hope if people do want to try to make this work, I think we need a signal from you on that tonight. And there is a long way to go to sort out the details. Thanks, President Paul.
Thank you, Mayor Weinberger. We'll go now on a second round to Councilor Bergman.
Thank you, President Paul. I think I was exceedingly clear about supporting moving forward. And given that, I just want to move that we amend the resolution. So I'm moving to make an amendment to line 21 to insert after the second word intent and before and it's comma, and then before the next words to explore, the words minus the vision/goals of redevelopment section. So that's what I would ask to add to this, and then to, as part of this motion, ask for staff to come back to the City Council as soon as possible with a revised vision, goals of redevelopment, based on the comments of the council and the public, to present to the developers. So I think I have that right. Yep. Based on the comments.
So, Councilor Bergman, what you're going to need to do, if you have that written out,
I will
and you will send it.
I will send that to Lori.
Excellent.
But yes, and let me just say, if this is a process, then this allows us to not let them think that this is, if we vote for this, this is, what we're blanket endorsing, right? That we'll come back and you guys will give us something else that we can get a chance to look at and approve. It'll be within the time frame. I think it should be not all that quickly, since everybody in the administration is saying, yeah, we can do that, we can look at that, we can incorporate that, we can look at these issues like re-looking at the firehouse, which we need to do in a more substantive way. So with that in mind, I make that motion and we'll write it out for Lori to do.
Okay, so I'm not really exactly 100% sure exactly what the motion is.
It is
if you can send that so that we can have that, we'll hold off on a second for just a second. You can ask a point of information, but I just would like to be able to get that.
And should I send it to the full City Council as well?
You could do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's just hold off for just a second. You have a point of information? Mm-hmm. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, what's your point of information?
Yeah, I appreciate what the mayor just said in terms of, sorry, maybe I need to go back and look at the original motion. What are we approving? Are we just generally approving an agreement? Are we approving this exact language? Are we approving this language with suggestions as made just by the people at this table, or are we approving it only as amended?
City Attorney Pellerin, perhaps you could clarify that answer, please. Or answer that question, please.
I believe that you are amending the resolution as to the language inserted and proposed by Councilor Bergman.
Great, sorry, I think, what do we need to do? Like, is the motion on this to approve this exact agreement, or is the motion on this to approve some version of this agreement? Like, how tied are we to the letter of intent as written?
I guess I'm still a little confused. You could move to approve the letter of intent as amended by, if the motion passes, as Councilor Bergman is presenting it before the council, if his amendment passes, you would then move to approve the amended version of the LOI.
That
In which
doesn't
case,
answer my
the
question,
changes
but I'll
would be
come back
made.
to
The
it.
changes per the motion would be made, right?
Right.
Correct.
But if we're, per the resolve clauses, which just says supports further exploration and due diligence centered around redevelopment. Okay, the attached letter of intent. So when we say that the city councilor supports the mayor entering into the attached letter of intent to explore the feasibility of executing a development agreement between the parties to provide the framework, do we have to amend the LOI if we want any amendments to the LOI?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much, Councilor Hightower. So we're just waiting on Councilor Bergman, and then after we get that information, we will then go to a second. Councilor McGee?
Sent.
No.
Sent. Okay.
Well, I was just going to ask for a 5-minute recess for that, but it seems we're good.
Okay, so, thank you. So okay, so everyone should have received the amendment. We'll get that posted as well. We're going to, if we can just wait for just a second. So this is the motion is to move to amend line 21 of the resolution by inserting after the word intent and before to explore the following words, minus the vision goals of development agreement section, and ask for staff to come back to the city council as soon as possible with a revised vision for the council to approve based on the comments of the council and public to be presented to the developers. So that is the motion, and we need a second to that motion. Is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Councilor McGee. Councilor Bergman, did you want the floor back?
Not unless I'm going to be answering or responding to other comments. Thank
Okay.
you.
So we're going to go to Councilor Shannon. Did you want to speak to the amendment, or I know your hand was up?
Yeah,
Okay.
just the amendment. I'm wondering if there is, the council has given feedback on this, and I'm wondering if there's a way to include council feedback that you've received tonight without, mixing this all together. That's one question. And two is, what would it mean to sign this letter of intent without the vision and goals section, which, I think it's non-binding at any rate. So how can that be modified to include some of the things that you heard tonight? Short of so I think it's still related to the amendment. I'm wondering what the options are.
Okay, so we'll go to Brian or Samantha. Did you want to speak to that? Or do you want me to go to the city attorney?
I just need to hear the question again because I was talking to somebody else.
Sorry. I'm just wondering if there is a way to incorporate of course, there's 12 people here. We don't all speak with one voice, but I think that there were some good ideas that were thrown out, and I saw you taking lots of notes on everything everybody was saying. Is there a way to include the feedback from the council into the vision and goals, maybe make things a little bit more broad, and include some of these comments, short of taking the vision goals out? And secondly, what's the impact of this letter of intent without the vision and goals included as the amendment suggests?
So yes, I think that there are definitely a couple of options. I think moving forward without the vision and goals really doesn't change the work that I and the city staff will be doing. So it's possible to move forward. I think part of what we're here tonight is to make sure, I think as Councilor Travers stated, that we didn't need to come at this early stage, but the reason we did is there's a lot of work to be done, and we don't want to be doing that work without understanding that the council's support for moving in this general direction. The idea that we would be able to wordsmith vision and goals at this time in a way that makes everybody happy feels a little bit futile to me and not the point of the exercise. However, I think there are good points that have been made that I think that we could agree to address around sustainability, the historic structure of the fire station, making sure the youth programming is included in this vision goals. I think it's in the back of the section, but it's not in this section. And then continue to answer questions that counselors continue to have, or respond to concerns or questions about other visions as we move forward with the due diligence process. So I think instead of having to come back to council with vision and goals to approve, that feels like that could go on forever and is not the best use of everyone's time. So I would say either take it out completely or have a motion that instructs city staff to amend those visions without, and being able to move forward with a few of the key items. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Now I just have to think a little bit more about what the options are. Thanks.
Did you want a moment to think about that? Or do we want me to come back to you? Carry on. Okay. All right. Councilor Carpenter.
I'm still a little confused by this, but based on what Samantha said, but it seems to me we could keep the vision and maybe just add a statement that you will continue to get feedback from the council to modify or adjust them. I think having them gives us a guide. It is stuff we've talked a lot about. We may all not agree with all of them. And I think what I hear Councilor Bergman asking is, during the process, once we start it, will you explicitly take time to refine these? And maybe we could accomplish that by just an additional statement saying you will do that.
Yes, and I think that additional statement could be added to the resolution. Is probably the most straightforward way to do that.
I don't have a statement off the top of my head. But if someone wants to propose one.
Okay. Councilor Carpenter, thank you. I think it might be, go ahead, Councilor Shannon, if you wish now. I would actually hope that we might be able to take just 5 minutes to sort of sort this out. But if you wanted to speak first, please go ahead.
A recess might be productive. I think that we could potentially, rather than throwing out the vision and goals, we could add something to the last be it resolved clause that included incorporating feedback from the council in the continue to engage the community and encourage public input on the redevelopment. We could add something about including council input in the vision and goals. What I was thinking, but
So I think we will. It's now 9:49. We'll take 5 minutes, and perhaps we may be able to work this out. I know there's Councilor Bergman's amendment. We just have received another amendment from Councilor Hightower. We do have a motion on the floor. So when we come back, we will deal with that, and we will hopefully move forward to the resolution. So we'll be back at 9:55. So we're going to get back to the meeting. It is now 10 o'clock exactly. Counselor Bergman, I believe you had the floor.
Well, if I don't know if I did, but if I did, I would defer to Councilor Hightower, who would have a friendly amendment that I think would resolves this effectively.
Okay, so now we will go to Counselor Hightower for her friendly amendment.
Great, which the friendly amendment was sent to everyone before the break. So it is just to amend line 21 to add, with the goals and visions amended by city staff given city council feedback, so that the whole line 20 through 22 reads, be it further resolved that the city council supports the mayor entering into the attached letter of intent with the goals and visions amended by city staff given council feedback to explore the feasibility of executing a development agreement between the parties to provide the framework for comprehensive redevelopment.
Okay, thank you. So
And
Lori,
that is friendly.
Okay, Lori, you have that? Yes, okay. So it is friendly to the maker and to the seconder. That is the amendment that is before us, and this is on line 20. This relates to lines 20, 21, and 22. Is there any discussion on the amendment? No further discussion on the amendment.
Oh,
So
sorry,
we
if
will-
I could just, I think this hopefully means that all of the great notes just taken by city staff can be incorporated without this coming back to the city council and being voted on.
Okay, thank you. So if there's no other discussion on the amendment, we'll go to a vote on the amendment. I guess there is discussion on the amendment. Councilor Travers.
I know it's been some time, and I apologize for that, but a part of me does have a question as to, from your all's perspective, what is the feedback that you just heard from the city council to incorporate into the letter of intent? Because, I heard some comments from some of my colleagues here on a hotel, for example, and I understand there's some members of the council that may be opposed to including a hotel at this site. I suspect there are other members of this council that are not opposed to including a hotel at this site. And so I just have an inquiry for you all as to what is the feedback that you would be incorporating here? Because taking out the hotel as a redevelopment goal is not something that I personally would approve of.
I think the goal will be to thread the needle pretty carefully and to incorporate as many of the pieces of feedback that we heard were common themes. This issue regarding the hotel, perhaps a solution would be to keep it in, but say that it may include rather than it should. I mean, just make it a little more optional, not to be so definitive. It doesn't say shall, but it says should, and that change would, I think, cover it, because we definitely want to fully explore that. There's no guarantee that it will be the end result, but I think we want to be able to fully explore it.
I am supportive of the amendment as long as the reflections indicate that there's differing viewpoints on some of these issues in the letter of intent. So thank you for that clarification, Director Pine.
Thank you, Councilor Travers. We'll go to Councilor Shannon.
Thank you, President Paul. I just wanted to note that during the recess, that was exactly the language that was discussed between Councilor Bergman, myself, and the mayor, that changing should to may would make people more comfortable that they're not actually firmly committed to it, but they're also, there was not opposition in our discussions either. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilor Shannon. Seeing no other comments on the amendment, remember, this is a vote not on the resolution, this is a vote just on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment as presented by Councilor Hightower, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please say no. Great, that puts those, we will now insert those, that amendment into line 20, 21, and 22. Is there anything further on the underlying resolution? We're now on the resolution. Seeing none, Counselor Grant.
The one thing that bothers me on line 11 of the resolution, saying that it's the primary point of entry to downtown Burlington, can I move to amend it to say is an important point of entry into downtown Burlington? Because it's not the primary point of entry. And it's just part of my whole issue of disregarding other parts of the city. You can say no, but words matter.
Counselor Grant, can you just tell me exactly where that is on what line?
Line 11. It says, whereas the Gateway Block is the primary point of entry into downtown Burlington, and it's not.
Okay, and what is your amendment exactly?
We could say is an important point of entry. Because we all know that everyone in the city is concerned about the state of that block, the state of Memorial, and, wants it worked on, and all of that, and that's valid. But we do so much language that dismisses parts of this city, and
So what you wanted, what your amendment is to replace the word in primary with important?
we could say is an important point of entry into downtown Burlington, but it's certainly not the primary point of entry. I mean, there's a lot of people who come into the city a whole bunch of different ways, and I think we have to be inclusive of all those neighborhoods. Thank you.
As a point of information, I think that the amendment would be deleting the primary and saying, and substituting an important.
All right, so the words the and primary would be replaced by an important. Is that your motion, Councilor Grant? Yes. And we need a second to that motion. Is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Councilor Bergman. Councilor Barlow.
That can be a friendly amendment if it's permitted.
Yes, it is permitted. You were the first, the maker, and
Right.
Councilor Shannon, you're okay with that. You're the seconder. So, okay, we will now, with the resolution will read on line 11, the Gateway Block is an important point of entry into downtown Burlington. Is there anything else before we go to a vote on the resolution? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of the resolution as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no. That motion passes unanimously. And with that, we will, and with our thanks so much to Assistant Director Dunn and to CEDO Director Brian Pine. Thank you so much. And to everyone else who has worked on this, please extend our thanks. We will go to our last item on our deliberative agenda, was at 8.3, Funds for Downtown Support. This item is not only regarding support for local businesses in the downtown, but we also do have a presentation from the Department of Business and Workforce Development. I believe we have the director, Kara Al-Naswari, and you have you brought some company with you. If you can just introduce them, and then understanding that you have a presentation for us.
Yes, hi, thank you, Council President Paul. I brought my assistant directors with me since we'll be discussing the work we've been doing for the past couple of years. This is Samantha McGinnis and Will Clavell.
President Paul, can I just say very quickly, before Kara dives in, especially given some of the discussion in public forum, and I just want to be really clear that as we've already had some discussion at the beginning in the public safety updates, the administration is very concerned about the public safety issues that are happening in the city right now. We, as I reported earlier, are working on them on many fronts. And we heard, I just want to remind the public and the council, of course, last month we heard a report from the BPD on various elements of how they are responding to the drug crisis and trying to address it. What we're going to hear tonight is focused on economic elements of what the downtown is facing right now, but I just really wanted to emphasize this is, especially right now, a difficult conversation to have about economics separate from public safety concerns. Want to reiterate, we have and will continue to talk about the public safety concerns. I think Cara, her team, the new department that's been in place for a little over a year now, have, I think, some important updates to share with the public about the economic side and what the city is doing to support businesses in general and businesses during this holiday period in particular that I think are timely for the council to hear. So,
Great, thank you, Mayor Weinberger. Please go ahead.
I can't share my screen. I don't know who can, Lori, I can't share my screen. Is that you or?
That would be Catherine, if she can
Catherine.
just give you co-hosting,
Sure, one second, Catherine.
or you can send it to me. You are a co-host now.
I am now. Okay, thank you. Good evening. Sorry, just getting my tech here. I just wanted to verbally discuss the current climate in the downtown and in the business community. First of all, of course, we want to acknowledge the current challenges that the business community is facing and be clear that my office speaks daily with businesses throughout the city, as well as various stakeholders, property owners, et cetera. There's many factors that are impacting the business climate in our downtown, which bring us here today. Before we dive into safety and security, I want to acknowledge many of them. One important being we are in an environment of extraordinary unemployment, which is driving our payrolls up and reducing operating hours for many of our locally owned businesses. As you all know, we also have sustained high inflation. We have more remote workers, and we have a loss of office workers in the downtown. We have high rates of retail theft, as you're all aware, and rates of recidivism in that area. We have, I also want to address that I think we have had, we've done exceptionally well retaining businesses in our downtown. Given COVID, the so-called Great Recession, we have, in this challenging climate, so far done a very good job of, and I don't know if you all have traveled to other towns and seen many boarded up main streets, and I think the team and I are very proud that we don't have that here in Burlington. In addition, I want to note that some of the business closures we have seen are nationals, which are responding to different drivers and looking at different factors and not just the local economy. So I wanted to dive into some data about, sorry, let me clear my screen here. We were able to purchase foot traffic data from the downtown going back to 2017. The dark orange line is 2023, which you can see. You can see we were, when we had that unseasonably warm April, you see that bump right there. I don't know, my cursor's here. There we go, there's that. And this data takes us through the end of August. We are seeing foot traffic levels that are fairly similar to our pre-COVID levels. but lower than 2021. And when I'd like to address that enormous bump in 2021, which many of you know is can be attributed to pent-up demand in the consumer base, in addition to many of our visitors here in Burlington were unwilling at that time to travel internationally. So we saw a really large influx of regional visitors as well during that time. When we look at downtown traffic on a day-to-day basis, you still see that slump that is happening Monday through Thursday, but we are still seeing an uptick on the weekends, which I think can be attributed to an increase in programming that we've been doing, which I will address soon. You will note on the top, however, August 2020, the peak day of August 23 was about 80% of August 2019, so pre-COVID numbers. This is our gross receipts, also known as our rooms and meals tax. Unfortunately, we only have data from the state through May at this point. It is tracking fairly close to our pre-COVID levels. And this is gross sales. This also includes non-taxable items. As you know, we do not tax clothing. And here you can see some of the slump that we are facing in terms of our challenges. You'll see the note I have on the right-hand side that our metropolitan area had some of the lowest unemployment in the United States. Some of those factors with retaining employees is absolutely related to safety and security concerns, and I believe it's also related to the labor market climate. So coming back to the Office of Business and Workforce Development, this was formalized through the budget process in FY23. But we started doing this work around COVID. When COVID broke out I joined the city team in November 2019. COVID, as you know, hit in March 2020. And at that point, the mayor asked me to take a wider business role to engage and support all the businesses, given that we were facing a very extremely unknown and challenging environment. How the Office of Business and Workforce Development is structured is in three main divisions. We have the Church Street Marketplace, which, as you know, is separated by charter. It's a separate budget that we run. We are running over 100 events annually, full marketing and promotion, full maintenance of the street. We have incubator business programs, and then our usual cultural programming that most of the public is used to. In the center, you'll see business support citywide. We often run that under what we call the Love Burlington brand. That's micro business support. We have a very innovative revolving loan fund, training and technical support for businesses, recruitment, retention of businesses, and other incubator programs as well off of the Church Street Marketplace. And the third division of the Office of Business and Workforce Development is the Early Learning Initiative, which is the city's scholarship and grant program to support the child care industry and those lower income members of our community who are seeking child care, and workforce training programs and working with our businesses to structure and respond to their needs. I will have Assistant Director McGinnis walk us through some of the Church Street Marketplace initiatives, which is where she focuses her work.
Thank you, Cara. I'm excited to be talking to you all this evening about the Church Street Marketplace division of the Business and Workforce Department. So our team works to create a vibrant and engaging Church Street Marketplace for the over 110 businesses that line the Church Street Marketplace, as well as the many visitors to the Church Street Marketplace that come to gather, celebrate, shop, dine, and enjoy this beloved landmark in our downtown. This year, we have already hosted over 100 free events on the Church Street Marketplace, in large part to some funding that we received earlier this year to run Marketplace Summer. Marketplace Summer had about 60 events included in it that ran from the end of June through the end of September. Those events that we host include both produced events like our Music on the Bricks Summer Concert Series or our Halloween dog costume contest that we had last weekend, as well as third-party events that we host like the Outright Vermont Fire Truck Pull, Juneteenth, or Festival of Fools. In addition to that, we also permit street performers, cart vendors, and artists to be a part of the vibrancy and activation on the marketplace. As Cara mentioned before, the marketplace also does all of its own maintenance, headed by our foreman, Jim Daly, doing all of the snow removal, trash, recycling, as well as the street decorations, including the welcome banners, the bright pennants that you see, and as you look out the window now, all the white lights going up on the trees for the holidays. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the marketing that we do for all of the events and businesses on the Church Street Marketplace. We recently relaunched our website, so we are always evolving the Church Street Marketplace to meet the needs of the businesses and the visitors to the marketplace. We launched a new website last year. We've already seen almost 100,000 visitors to that website. We have really incredible numbers on our social engagements, over 45,000 followers on both Instagram and Facebook, where we're talking about the businesses on the marketplace as well as the events and programming that we're running. We also have a monthly newsletter with about 6,000 folks opening that, which is an incredible open rate for a newsletter for all folks to learn about everything that we have going on the marketplace. And then lastly, going to jump into the holidays as the first snowflakes fell on Burlington just last week. The holidays are very big on our mind. We are really ramping up for an incredible and robust holiday season. Ads have already gone out in local newspapers. We will be putting posters and counter cards out this week. We have a lot of programming coming in November and December. Of course, we have the iconic tree arriving to the marketplace next Friday, followed by the tree lighting the following week and Santa Parade. We have a menorah lighting, kids train, free hot chocolate, window decorating contest, a holiday parking program, discounts for employees, and we are marketing that through a ton of different platforms. Print, social media, radio, so a lot going on. In addition, I also help manage the BTV Winter Market in City Hall Park. So the BTV Winter Market will be returning next weekend, which is kind of wild, November 18th. So that is 6 weeks of the BTV Winter Market, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Last year, we saw 22,000 people attend the Winter Market, so we hope to see that grow this year.
Now on to business support citywide. The Love Burlington brand was born during COVID when the city realized that we needed to support businesses beyond Church Street in a more active and engaging manner with the public. Will Clavel, Assistant Director Clavel, heads up the business support citywide, and we also have a marketing team who helps with that as well. He just reminded me I'm going to hit a couple of the first 2 points. Our office was also tasked with managing the American Rescue Plan Act funds, the $27 million that the city received during COVID. We engaged in an interdepartmental process to help develop policies, engage with the administration, administer the funds, and distribute them. And deploying these funds and managing them, and as well as managing the federal reporting, has also been a large portion of what the department's been doing.
All right, thank you, Carr, and good evening, councilors. Just wanted to highlight one of the policy initiatives that Carr just referenced. This was the creation of 2 zero-interest revolving loan programs. This came directly out of the ARPA community survey, where our community respondents who took the survey highlighted the need for access to capital, especially for our BIPOC and women-owned businesses in town. We, after talking to the businesses and our partners, decided to create 2 zero-interest revolving loan programs to effectively serve businesses of different sizes. The first one we run in-house. It's an interdepartmental collaboration between our office, REIB, CEDO, and the Clerk Treasurer's Office. We have a volunteer loan review underwriting committee made up of local bankers and industry professionals. And the second program is a partnership with Kiva. Kiva started as a micro lender in some of the poorest communities in the world, and they now partner with cities in Burlington to provide zero-interest access to capital to small businesses. So between these 2 programs, we launched them both in April. So in the last 6 months, we've got 11 loans out the door. The majority have gone to BIPOC and women-owned businesses. And as long as people keep repaying these loans, this will be a tool we'll have to support businesses for many years to come. Just want to highlight a couple other quick initiatives. Designed a grant program, dispersed $1 million to 25 local nonprofits. We helped support the cart vending program and some of the events in City Hall Park, bringing more diverse vendors to creating more opportunities for them. We worked with businesses and nonprofits along North Winooski Ave with the transition to the bike lane that went in there. And we've put on a number of classes, created how-to guides and other business resources for our local business community, along with the rollout of the new cannabis industry that we saw here. And then the other thing we often get requests for is finding space, whether it's finding a market for a brand new vendor, helping a business find their first brick and mortar, or helping a growing business expand to a bigger space. Here are a number of businesses that we've worked with specifically around their space needs and finding a suitable space for their business operation.
A lot of the community engages with Love Burlington through their Instagram at Love Burlington or our website, loveburlington.org. We find that people really do take advantage of being able to sort businesses not only by neighborhood but also by ownership, whether they're BIPOC owned or women owned. We have garnered quite a following in the short time that this has been up and running, and if you'll see, our monthly newsletters actually have a larger open rate than the Church Street Marketplace, and these are hyper-local emails and people opening them, so we're really seeing a lot of local engagement specifically in this brand. We've done some collaborations. We have over 30 annual opportunities to participate in events and vendor markets. We find these vendor markets are a great opportunity for some of our smallest micro businesses. A lot of people are running businesses out of their homes, and when we have these markets in City Hall Park, it allows them to access a customer base that they normally don't have access to, and it allows them to test out their wares. From then, we can offer them technical support as well as access to our revolving loan program, and that will often, and we have seen success in this. They've moved from the markets to taking a loan out from us and getting a cart on the Church Street Marketplace, and the next proof of concept there is hopefully to get the next Church Street Marketplace cart to then have a brick and mortar business. The third division of the Business and Workforce Development is the Early Learning Initiative and our Workforce Development. We've applied for 4 regional grants. We are managing the RAISE grant, the Workforce Development portion of the RAISE grant that is being used to redevelop Cherry Street and Bank. We also have launched our First Steps training program to increase licensed childcare and home-based childcare providers in the city. This also allows, we currently have 13 participants. They'll be graduating at the end of the year. They will be licensed childcare providers, and they will also be licensed to open a home-based childcare center. We have received a lot of feedback that some of our immigrant population prefers home-based care, and we have noticed a decrease in available home childcare businesses. So our goal is to try and train as many of our residents so that they can open some of those businesses. We've cultivated multiple community partners. The manager of our Early Learning Initiative program testified at the state because our program is considered dynamic, and it is also considered a model that other communities are looking to emulate. We have nearly doubled the scholarships that we have put out to support low-income families. We provided a 6-figure capacity grant to the One Arts School, which opened in the Old North End. And we're also supporting language access for our non-native English speakers who are looking for childcare by providing grants to the childcare providers so that they can better communicate with the families. And last but not least, I would like to end on a bit of a high note. Given the challenges that we know we are seeing in the downtown, I wanted to give people an update on what we have been seeing. We have Northfield Savings Bank, who made a massive investment in their flagship location here on the Church Street Marketplace. Don't know if you've been to Santiago's yet, but it's delicious. Monell has pulled out of Burlington, and that space is rented and should be open in a couple weeks. A letter of intent has been signed for the Slate space. We have an exciting new restaurant coming into the old Penny Clues space. The Nomad Bakery will be moving to the old Red Onion space. There is a new convenience store coming into the old Perky Planet space to serve the student population upstairs. The Tinkering Turtle is a toy store on College Street. We have a new bar that is coming into Mr. Mike's shortly, and we have a restaurant coming into the old Majestic car rental spot on the Rotary, and we have our first Asian market that will be opening right off of Church Street on Bank. Almost full Asian market. They just had a baby. They were hoping to open in October, but they couldn't hit that. I'm open to any questions about the department and the work we do. And after that, we can discuss the resolution.
Thanks so much. So before we do that, we've come to a little bit after the magic hour of 10:30. It's now 10:33. In order to proceed, we'll need a motion to suspend our rules, and I would entertain that motion. Counselor McGee, I'm having a brain whatever.
Thank you, President Paul.
Please go ahead.
I would move to suspend our rules to continue the meeting to finish our deliberative agenda.
To complete just our deliberative agenda?
Yes, please.
Okay, so there's a second to that from Counselor Jang. Is there any discussion on that motion to simply complete our agenda, to complete our deliberative agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no. Okay, so we will continue with this, and we will finish up our meeting with this deliberative agenda item. So,
Questions?
I'm sorry, did you want?
I was going to entertain questions from council
Yes.
Regarding my department and its work.
Right. So if there are counselors who have questions or comments for the department, now would be the time. Counselor McGee and then Counselor Jang.
Thank you, President Paul, and thanks to the three of you for the presentation. knew a good deal about the work that you've been doing, and just seeing it all presented there. We haven't had an update in a while, so it's very refreshing, and I'm just very impressed that the department has seen such success in a relatively short period of time. And I was also intrigued by the data that was presented about foot traffic. I did see that sales are down this year, and I'm curious if that is just for retail or if that is across the board for all of our commercial.
So we're seeing, so first of all, those numbers, which I didn't clarify, are inflation adjusted. We're seeing less of a dip right now in the rooms and meals, and we're seeing more of a dip in the retail. So yes, the numbers where you did see the dip, that is retail. It includes non-taxable items such as clothing, but that is captured at the state level.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I'll have more questions once we get to the memo and the resolution, but that is all I have for now. Just a big thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McGee. We'll go to Councillor Jang.
Yep. This is more of a comment, and I think it's one of the divisions, which is the early learning initiative. I have had the opportunity of receiving the full presentation, and it's unfortunate that many people do not know about it, including this council. If you knew that this council we just started that program with only $500,000 from the pilot fund. And because of it, over nearly 400 children, are better off now. And also, because of your work, you were able to leverage over nearly $2 million with the state child care subsidy, CCIP. I think that's a very successful story, and a better presentation will need to happen. I hosted you when? Thursday?
Correct, yes,
Yeah.
Thursday.
And with Rebecca and Alexander, I think it's eye-opening. And it's unfortunate also that this mayor does not talk about it enough. He talked about all of this achievement, but not that, which I think is a great achievement. Thanks for the work that you guys do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councillor Jang. Councillor Doherty.
Thanks, President Paul, and thank you for this wonderful presentation. I had two questions, which I think might be sort of a follow-up to Councillor McGee in some sense. One, probably a dumb question, is how you actually measure foot traffic in the downtown marketplace. And then two, given that foot traffic looks to be at similar numbers to what we see in previous years, excluding 2020 for obvious reasons, and we see a pretty dramatic dip in the gross sales numbers, do you have a sense as to what can account for that? There are relatively similar numbers of people apparently in the marketplace, and yet they're not purchasing things?
They're not
Do we know what they're
purchasing
doing?
things. I would say, it's a bit of a perfect storm. It's a confluence of impacts. Most importantly, I would say that businesses aren't open 7 days a week anymore, although they used to be. And I think that's having an impact. Businesses also aren't open as late anymore. And some of that is related to the safety and security concerns. It's also related to the ability to hire right now in this environment, not just in the safety and security environment, but also in the unprecedented low unemployment rate that we have right now. So I'm just seeing reduced operating hours. And then, of course, there's the internet, which is, an ongoing challenge for businesses. I do think this community does like to shop local, but I think there are still challenges meeting the prices that you're seeing on Amazon. Oh, the foot traffic, right, sorry, just reminded me. We purchased the foot traffic data. There is a company called Placer AI. That data is cell phone data, essentially. It's, your cell phone is constantly being pinged, and what that data does not have in it, however, is Canadian traffic. That is attributable to the Canadians protect their cell phone user data better than the Americans do. Everything you do is, identities are, of course, not available, but most other data is available, including where you came from when you arrived at the marketplace and where you go to afterwards. I'm happy to share that report with the council at some time as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Doherty. There any other comments on the presentation before we go to the memo that we have for the Funds for Downtown Support? Seeing none, because we have these as one agenda item. So given that, I don't know, Director Arnazwari, if you wanted to speak to the memo or if we wanted to go to a motion on the memo.
I'm happy to speak to the memo. Initially, I sense there will be motions on the amendments to the memo, and I thought it might be helpful for me to address the initial memo and then discuss further the amendments. The initial proposal for a more proactive marketing extending beyond the holidays and to improve lighting for employees that are using our free parking program. Those ideas were in response to the feedback that my office does get. One of the main pieces of feedback I'm getting right now is that there was a lot, not just from my office in the municipality, but throughout the state, during COVID, a large push to get people to shop local. And I'm hearing now that there's no real push during these challenging times in Burlington to remind people to spend their dollars here. I have had dozens of requests for a PR campaign to try to encourage people to differentiate between what they might be seeing downtown and being able to still come down here and support local businesses. And so those are where those initiatives came from. I would like to clearly address that security was not in this memo which we can discuss. Hiring security is a cost that I don't know if these funds will cover, and is also something I wanted to discuss further with the chief.
Okay, thank you. So before we get to a discussion of the memo, I guess we can go to a motion first. I'll go to Councilor Travers, and then we can, any discussion after that.
Thank you. I would move to authorize the Director of Business and Workforce Development to accept a donation of $50,000 from the Pomerleau Family Foundation and to reallocate $50,000 in ARPA funds, and to authorize the Chief Administrative Officer to execute budget amendments up to a full amount of $100,000 to support public safety initiatives and economic activity in downtown Burlington and stabilize worker retention, while considering input from downtown workers and businesses, the Church Street Marketplace Commission, and the Burlington Business Association, among other stakeholders. And I do not need the floor back upon a second. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Travers. So we need a second to that motion that is made by Councilor Jang. If there are councilors who wish to go to any comments on that, we'll go first to Councilor Shannon and then to Councilor Jang. Councilor Shannon.
No, I didn't need to speak. Thank you. I was seconding, that's all.
Okay, all right. So we'll go to Councilor Jang.
Jang, yes. So thank you again for being here. You know, I think your department is managing the ARPA fund.
Correct.
Right? And I was just wondering why this was not done a little bit sooner with the $50,000 you're using to match this. And the second part of the question is, did you reach out to Pomerleau to make that donation, or it was just he's a nice person to come and say, here is the money.
Actually, I believe Council President Paul had conversations with the Pomerleau Foundation, and Council President Paul approached me with these funds and with the contingency of a match. So the ARPA funds that would be used, this 50,000, is what is left from several different contingency funds. So if you remember, when you do approve allocations of ARPA for large, complex projects, they often have a $30,000 contingency, and we have some 5,000, some 10,000, some bits left of projects that have reached completion. So pulling those together gets us to that 50 to match the Pomerleau Foundation grant.
So then, thank you, Pomerleau, and thank you, Council President Paul. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll go to Councillor McGee.
Thank you, President Paul. Thank you, Cara, for the presentation on the memo. I think my question is more for Mayor Weinberger or someone else with the administration. I don't think it's directly related to the work of your office. So, Mayor, I'm just curious, this is a pretty sizable expenditure, it includes grant acceptance, and I'm just curious why this didn't go to Board of Finance before coming to the full council.
Thank you, Councilor McGee. It was really largely a question of timing. As was just noted, this is an opportunity that just has just materialized in the last really week, and I appreciate President Paul's efforts on this, and given the desire to have a immediate impact and get these funds out, I made the call that we should bring this to the full council tonight. We didn't have a Board of Finance meeting scheduled, and we had a busy evening, and adding a special Board of Finance for just this one item didn't make sense to me, and the whole Board of Finance is here and can weigh in, and I knew this was a matter that was of interest to the full council as well. So it seemed like this was the best way to handle this fluid situation.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I think given the budget constraints that we're going to be facing in future fiscal years and the role that ARPA funds play in alleviating those concerns, I think it would have made more sense for this to go to Board of Finance first. And I think it would make sense for us to have a good sense of the larger picture of where we're at with ARPA funds, both as a Board of Finance and as a full council. And so regardless of how the motions change tonight, I won't be supporting this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McGee. So, Councillor Barlow.
Thank you, President Paul. And thank you for bringing this to us tonight. And I guess I count myself among those who think we're like in a critical situation downtown, and timeliness, especially going into the holiday shopping season, is of the essence. So although I appreciate that this could have been brought to the Board of Finance, I'm glad we're deliberating on it tonight. And I just also want to express my thanks for having an explicit mention of safety and security in the motion tonight. I think that it's a good signal for us to send to the merchants who are struggling in the downtown that we're going to try to address some of their concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. We'll go to Councillor Shannon.
Thank you, President Paul. I just wanted to say that I appreciate the urgency with which this was treated. Thank you, President Paul, for pushing for this and for engaging the Pomerleaus as well. And thank you to the mayor for expediting this. We often, we have a variety of things that sometimes cannot make a subcommittee meeting, and we can then bring it to the full council. Not necessarily ideal, but also not that extraordinary, and I think that this is appropriate. We don't have time to waste with this, and we still have to figure out, give the staff time to figure out how best to spend this money. So I appreciate that you're taking this on. I know you take on a lot. So thank you for all the good work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Shannon. Councillor Hightower.
Thank you for the general update, especially, for the general update. I think that was really informative and good to hear that. I feel like consistently it's like we sometimes decide to paint the most dismal view of what's going on, and I think it's just an important reminder that we do have a really vibrant downtown, and that's a message we could be spreading instead of some of the messages that we're choosing. I think I had a reaction, and then we got lots of folks from emails, including business owners, who were like, I don't understand why, if we're spending money, we're spending it on a marketing campaign. I think that anytime the city council gets matching funds, it's hard to turn that down, so I won't be voting no on this, but I think, unfortunately, I think I don't think that marketing campaigns that are done with urgency are also sometimes all that helpful. And so I think that $100,000 could be used to boost some of the maybe more specific challenges that the businesses are facing. So I hope that there's maybe some flexibility in how the funds are used, but also obviously the three of you are the experts and talk to businesses a lot. So I'm sure that whatever is done will still be helpful. So, thank you for bringing this.
Thank you, Councillor Hightower. Councillor Travers.
Thank you, President Paul. So I agree with what Councillor Hightower just said, but we'll be reaching a different conclusion in terms of the motion that I just made. I certainly understand the value that could be found in a expanded marketing campaign for downtown during the holiday season. That said, I also think that the interest that we've heard from a number of business owners in the recent days, as well as community members, has been that to the extent these resources are available, that it should be placed more directly towards public safety initiatives. And so I think that your office has likely heard that as well. And so my understanding is that by submitting this motion language, which is actually amended motion language, the language as posted did expressly call out a PR and marketing campaign, but the motion that's now before us removes that language and expressly puts in public safety initiatives as eligible for this funding. And I don't know if you need to speak to it further, but my understanding is that with that change, that these funds will now be more dedicated to that interest, which is to improve the public safety security, for lack of a better term, in our Church Street Marketplace in downtown.
Yes, I will express some concern that to pump this amount of money out for just the holiday season is not going to be possible. Ads have already been spent, and a lot of security has already been purchased. We are actively trying to get responses from local security firms, and we have been doing that for several days now. I will, however, follow this amendment and engage the other community partners and try and utilize these funds as best I can. The number one concern that we hear from the businesses is concern over our diminished police force, and that is not within my purview to impact. However, I do think there is some value in adjusting the narrative that's out there. And I think that Councillor Hightower said just that it was refreshing to hear that there were nice things happening in the downtown. I'm here generally 6 days a week. I eat downtown at least once a week. And I think that story isn't always out there. However, I absolutely understand that this council is hearing from their constituents, and I want to react to that as best I can. I will caution that $100,000 would get us some evening street security on the marketplace, but not for very long. I want to have some expectation management on what one gets for $100,000 for security. I think that's my goal. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Doesn't appear that, oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Grant.
Thank you. So, as we said, we can't really affect what's going on with the police department. It is what it is. We don't have the street crimes unit. It is what it is. But the issues around garbage, lack of garbage cans, receptacles, needles not being picked up fast enough, maybe coordinating something with the Department of Public Works. They're using See-Click Fix for reporting needles, for reporting tents, for reporting garbage. If you don't have the app on your phone, it's worth putting on your phone and going, and you can look at all the requests in the area to see exactly what people are using. We have a large amount of camping going on, as you all know. We have dramatically increased tents showing up on the green belts downtown the last few weeks, and a lot of people are talking about that. And there's a lot of garbage. So those are the things that I hear about. And that is some of the responses that I've gotten. It's like, if you do a marketing campaign, what are you actually asking people to come to? Because the way things are right now, people may not respond to that. So it's these other things that are part of what is resulting from the crisis that we have right now, but aren't related to police, but still are out of control and still need to be handled. So I don't know how that works with the staffing that you have. I don't know if it's just making staffing aware, hey, walk around, see, click, fix, get these requests submitted so things can be dealt with faster. Would mean a lot to some businesses. How can we work to have more bathrooms open? That's a huge issue. There's a lot of businesses who talk about having to clean up human waste, and we don't have the bathrooms. And we had someone talking about the public bathrooms down at the waterfront that were closed and not open when they should have been. And we really need to look at that, because that right now is a huge problem. People don't want to do that, but once you feel you have to do that, and you start to do that, and you don't have any other resources, then it becomes the problem. But it's something that people are really, really deeply concerned about. Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to address that if I may.
Sure, of course.
Thank you, Council President. Yes, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the team maintenance staff that also is part of my department. I have 4 employees who are dedicated to the marketplace, and I also manage the maintenance in City Hall Park. To be clear, they pick up every single needle on the marketplace and in City Hall Park, and they pick up everything else, including garbage and human feces. They have been working through all of this and through COVID, so I just want to give them a quick shout out. So, and yes, I also want to give a quick shout out to DPW's team, who is quite responsive to See, Click, Fix needle posts. And I have often and always tell businesses to report on SeeClickFix all of their needle issues, because we do have staff that's quite dedicated to that. I know not every corner of the city is being addressed in a manner that we would all wish it was. I just have, we just want to give a shout out to staff that is really working hard, has been stuck by needles, who are going in for hepatitis tests as we speak, and are working very hard to keep our downtown clean.
Thank you for that. And I appreciate that staff too. I guess I'm thinking about when we talk about downtown, I guess maybe my scope of downtown is different. Because when I think about extending down to the waterfront and the businesses down there, because certainly our waterfront is a huge attraction, right? So if people can't feel that they can go down there, then they might not, that might affect them coming into Burlington. And I think also when we talk about businesses that are, you know, I consider downtown to be parts of the one. When you start to go down Winooski Avenue, there's bars, there's restaurants, there's other types of businesses, and then you can go down St. Paul Street and then Lower Main. So can we use that money for, I guess, maybe we call it the greater downtown area? Just something to think about. Thank you.
Yes, I'd also like to clarify that this money would not be going into the Church Street Marketplace budget. I would be taking these funds into the Business and Workforce Development budget, which serves the business community as a whole.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, Councilor Grant. We'll go to Councilor Hightower, and then perhaps we can go to a vote.
Great. And I just do have to comment and say that I know that folks are concerned about the size of our force, but more police officers does not mean more people are housed, does not mean fewer people are addicted. So I think sometimes people are confusing the cause and effect of some of what they're seeing. And I did also want to address Councilor Grant's point to the, like, you know, most people who come to Burlington don't just go on Church Street. So I think even if, you know, City Hall Park is doing a great job of getting cleaned up regularly, and Church Street is doing a great job of being cleaned up regularly. I think anything that we can do to make the areas around that really welcoming, and using some of the funds for that, and or even just appreciating some of the like frontline workers who have been dealing with this. I think those are all great initiatives that I would support, but obviously I'll be supporting this no matter what. But wanted to say that. And thank you again so much for staying till 11 p.m. to talk to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hightower. It appears as though we should be able to go to a vote on the motion as made by Councilor Travers.
Point of information, could you just reread that, please?
We can certainly do that.
Thank you.
So it would be to authorize the Director of Workforce Development, Business and Workforce Development to accept a donation of $50,000 from the Pomerleau Family Foundation, and to reallocate $50,000 in ARPA funds, and to authorize the Chief Administrative Officer to execute budget amendments up to the full amount of $100,000 to support public safety initiatives and economic activity in downtown Burlington, and to stabilize worker retention while considering input from downtown workers and businesses, the Church Street Marketplace Commission, the Burlington Business Association, among other stakeholders. Certainly. If there's no other questions, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no.
No.
So that motion passes 11-1. Thank you so much, and thank you all so much for this presentation. Very valuable, and thank you for your work. I know these are challenging times, and thank you for all the efforts that you give to the city of Burlington.
President Paul.
Yes, Councilor Travers.
Just before we adjourn, I have a parliamentary inquiry for the city attorney's office.
Yes.
During public comment earlier today and in the emails during this meeting, we learned as a council of an alleged open meeting law violation that had been submitted to the city. I will say that in reviewing it myself, that it doesn't appear to me to be an open meeting law violation, but my understanding is that if the council takes no action in response to that within 10 days, which is tomorrow, that it will be considered under the law as a denial of the open meeting law violation, which would allow the person who filed it to proceed to take that matter to court. And so I suppose my parliamentary inquiry here is whether, from the city attorney's office, I've accurately recited what the applicable law is here, and if, from your perspective, members of the council wanted to better understand what our not acting tonight would mean, would you advise that we need to enter into executive session to discuss that item?
Thank you, and yes, I do believe that that would be the advice from me and our office, that we would enter into executive session should councilors want to better understand the options before them.
Okay, thank you. So I'm not really sure exactly where that leaves us. So if there is a desire on the part of counselors to discuss, to understand this more fully, I guess now would be the time to voice that concern, and based on that, we would then go into executive session. So if there are counselors who have concerns about that and wish to gain further information on this, now would be the time to voice that concern.
Point of information.
Yes.
What's your question?
The question is, the issue is that there was an open meeting law violation.
Yes.
And that was mentioned.
An allegation, just point of
I'm sorry.
allegation.
I'm sorry, thank you so much. And so it is up to us. We can either by not responding to it, we are responding to it by saying that we do not agree with that allegation. However, if there are counselors who don't feel comfortable making that response, then now would be the time to come forward and say, I need more information before making that response. So that is what I'm asking. I'm asking for counselors if they have that concern.
Yes.
And hold on just a moment, Councilor Bergman. Councilor Jang has the floor.
Yep. And this is a question about a process. I think we amended our rule to only do deliverable. And now we want to add a different item as part of the meeting. Could you please explain?
In executive session, I don't think needs to be an explicit agenda item. There could be an instance in the middle of a debate of a deliberative item where counselors raise something that could trigger a reason for the body to enter into executive session. So you could choose to take that course of action at any time. I mean, it is preferable that if you have, prior to the agenda, expect for a reason for executive session, that you warn and give the public that notice. But in this instance, as this arose this evening, and there is a time constraint there, I think there's a valid reason why the body could enter into an executive session should they feel they want to receive information from council.
Are you all set, Councilor Jang?
Yes. And my other question is, I mean, how did we even hear about this just right now during public forum? Why didn't we hear about this a little bit sooner?
I believe there was a written communication, and again, the reasons why I would like to advise the body in executive session would be to give confidential attorney-client privilege communication.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Councilor Jang. Councilor Bergman, did you have something to add?
I did.
Okay.
I think that it is prudent for us to go into executive session to hear confidential attorney communications related to potential litigation on this. I just don't think that as individuals we should be dealing with it. I also think that we need to suspend the rules to add this matter, having completed our deliberative agenda and having already made a decision to, end the meeting pursuant to the rules. So I think that since we have not adjourned, that it would be most appropriate for us to suspend the rules and to amend the agenda to add this item, which would be an executive session for the purpose of getting attorney communications, confidential attorney communications related to a probable, or at least a possible litigation involving the city.
I would second that motion from Councilor Bergman to suspend the rules.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Bergman. My understanding is that actually that isn't something that we need to do, Attorney Pellerin.
I think that that's a course of action that you can take, yes.
Okay, so there is a motion to suspend our rules to take up this item by Councilor Bergman, seconded by Councilor Travers. Is there any discussion on the motion to suspend our rules? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of the motion to suspend our rules, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please say no. Okay, given that, Councilor Travers, if you could first make the first, is it one motion or two?
I think it'll be two, so
Okay.
I would
Go ahead.
move to find that premature general public knowledge of attorney-client communication regarding the city council's response to an item that may result in civil litigation would place the council at a substantial disadvantage.
Thank you, Councilor Travers. Is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Councilor Jang. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please say no. That motion passes unanimously, and with that, we'll go to the second motion.
Based on the finding of substantial disadvantage, I move that we enter into executive session under 1 VSA Section 313A1E to discuss probable civil litigation to which the city council may be a party.
All right, thank you, Councilor Travers, seconded by Councilor Jang. Is there any discussion on that motion? And this would include the city attorney, mayors of the mayor's staff. Is that correct? Yes. Yes, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, President Paul.
All right, so if there's, yes, you have a question.
And the question is about, are we coming back up here to adjourn or people leaving? Where are we doing the executive session?
That is true. Do we need to come forward after the executive session with a decision?
Yes, I believe that would be part of the action.
So we
but-
will go into executive session, and then we will have to come out of executive session and have that vote at the end after. Okay,
Yes.
Thank you so much, Councilor Jang, a very important question. If there's no other comment, if there's no other discussion, then we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of the second motion to go into, or the motion to go into executive session, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please say no. So we are now in executive session. Is it possible?
Second.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of our agenda. Councilor Shannon, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you, Councilor
Second.
Shannon, seconded by Councilor McGee. All those in favor of the motion to adjourn, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please say no. We find ourselves adjourned at 11:22. Keep in mind that our next meeting is Monday, November 20th. Thank you all. Have a good evening.